gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Well, hello there, everybody. It is Gas Masks and Hand Grenades. I am your host, Jeff. You're at the place where music melts your mind. And this guy, right here, we'll do it this way because I never remember. This guy over here, Mr. Nomad himself, the Nomad himself, is John Haughm. John, good to see you, my friend. It's been a little while.
Howdy.
We talk a lot, but we haven't been on the same on a screen or anything like that lately. So it's good to see you, man. You got big news. You just dropped your third solo album in the triptych, the trilogy of the Nomad Trilogy.
Yeah.
And that came out on Friday, correct?
Yeah, the third.
Right. And tell us about the name of that real quick. And we're going to kind of go backwards in time. We're going to just talk about this briefly, then go back in time and talk about the trilogy, some of your earlier stuff too, that people may not be that aware of, and then we'll kind of get into the present tense, and we'll hit on the Agalot thing real quick, even though this is specifically about solo stuff. But we got to talk about the fact that you guys are doing MDF in a couple weeks, and other than that, we'll just kind of play it by ear then. So the new album is called The Devil's Coil, but it's more than that.
Well, it has coordinates.
Right.
Much like the first album has coordinates. I do that for more cryptic reasons. But
yeah, I was going to ask you, can you get into that, or do you not want to get into it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I'll get into that as we talk about the stuff more.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna remove my sunglasses because my feigned angler is reflecting in my sunglasses.
There you go. Yeah. You got the hat on. That's good enough. You're 50% there. But anyways, so the new one, The Devil's Coil, came out on Friday. I had it, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago. You sent me in advance.
Yeah.
Got to listen to it. It's listen to all three of these back to back over the last 2 days. There's some very, very noticeable nuances of difference between them. Yet there's a symmetry to them all too, as well. So we'll get into that in a minute here. But let's go back, because I just admitted to you, I don't actually have the real early stuff. You have what, two solo albums that came out before the trio?
They weren't albums per se. They were EPs and singles and studies, really.
Right.
Yeah. The first full length that I did was Last Place I Remember, and that was the third solo release that I did.
Okay.
It started with this one, and this is a 7-inch EP that Anthem Records here in Portland.
I want to blow you up. Show that again if you would, please.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what's that called?
It is simply called Plus 46 1736.30 minus 124420.313.
Exactly. I knew it was something like that.
So it all started I'd say about 2010. There was a record label and a record store here called Anthem Records, run by John Clote. And Daniel Menchie sort of, introduced me to him and to this place. And I'd go down there all the time because the label was specialized in experimental music and techno dance kind of stuff. And so I'd go to the record store and, I found all kinds of cool stuff there, like, rare Coil vinyls and stuff like that. So, and I, in time I, became kind of friends with John. So he had a 7-inch single series that he had at the time. And it included people like Daniel Menchie, Nudge, Birchville Cat Motel.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tom Carter. And I wanted to be involved in that because at that time I was really wanting to branch out and do something outside of the metal stuff, you know. And I had been wanting to do some solo stuff dating all the way back to, I would say, 2003. And, you know, back when Chris and I were doing ambient stuff together, Chris, the former drummer of Agalock. And so, you know, and at one point I wanted to make a neo folk album, which, you know, the songs I wrote for that ended up being on the White EP.
Agalock stuff, yeah.
So it's like every time I would try to do something, Agalock would kind of absorb it.
Yeah.
So this was one of those opportunities where I could do something where Agalock could not absorb what I was doing. And so I recorded this piece of music for this 7-inch, and it was heavily influenced by a bad mushroom trip that I had about a year before.
Nice.
In a yurt in the woods up by Astoria, Oregon.
Yeah.
Like literally, I still remember being stuck on Saturn, and I did not know how to get away.
Oh, really?
I was fucked up.
Gone. Yeah.
And so the next morning I went home, and I wanted to create a piece of music that sort of had that same kind of texture.
Yeah, that fear, but yet
it was more of just like what I noticed when I was having this trip was how things looked and how things felt, and how I wanted to create a piece of music that was like the feeling of how my brain was perceiving
reality
and in reality and texture.
Yeah.
So that's what I made, and then I submitted it to John. He loved it, and he put that out in 2011. And then that began.
What label was that again, John? I'm sorry.
Anthem Records, not the Rush Anthem Records.
No, I know. Yeah. Because that's also Portland is, you know, there was Beta Lactam Ring out there. So was Soleil Moon. Is Soleil Moon still around?
I think one of them is. I'm not sure.
That's where I heard of. That's where I heard about Menchie way back. Fields of Skin. Yeah. Like that's going way fucking back.
Well, and see, that's the thing is Anthem had a lot of Beta Lactam. Their releases.
Yeah.
That I bought, and they had a bunch of Soleil Moon stuff as well. I wanted to do stuff for those labels too, but I don't know, never really came through.
Didn't happen. Yeah.
No, and so anyway, so fast forward about a year, and I'd already made that collaboration with Daniel Menchie in 2012, which we don't have to talk about, but.
Is that's this one though, right? The 7-inch and the
yes,
right,
yes.
And the CD. There's a full.
Yeah, that's technically a full length. It's just it's just a weird package, you know.
Yeah, this is really good. Now it's very, if you know Daniel Menchie's material, you can kind of hear the juxtaposition of the two things going on, where you're coming more to the center and he's coming more to the center for that collaboration. But Daniel's stuff is not for the faint of heart, most of it, unless you get into the sleep stuff, the ASMR stuff. But it's it's noise in a lot of ways. It's like found noise. So
it's noise based around natural
things, right? Yeah.
Which so is big.
Like sticking fucking super sensitive. What do they call those microphones? But the ones.
Oh, it escapes me.
Yeah, there's a term for like those. Yeah.
I actually have one. Contact mics.
Contact mic, right? And he would like stick them down in fucking not beehives, ant hills, and you'd hear all the fucking for that. It's a very interesting thing, but not for everybody. So
well, I mean, Graham Revell, from SPK, he made a record that was just insect sounds.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So you did the thing with Daniel. What year was that again?
That was 2012.
2012, right. Okay.
And that was also the same year I did the collaboration with Matthias Brissot, the first one, Mosaic. So I was having a blast just doing collaborations and solo stuff. Well, anyway, 2011, my grandmother died, and I was pretty close with her. And so after she died, I decided to make some music that was sort of eulogized her in a way. And a few years before that, I actually recorded her reading a poem called Life by Arseny Tarkovsky, who's he was the father of Andrei Tarkovsky, the filmmaker.
Yeah, the stalker guy, right?
Yeah, and his father was a poet, and he had this beautiful poem about someone's acceptance of death and looking back on life, and I recorded my grandmother, who was at the time I think 95 years old.
Wow.
I had her read that and I recorded it. I don't know why. It's just being, you know, I would ask her to do strange things like that. One time she told me her entire life story, and I wish I would have recorded that.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, after she died, I had this music that I'd been working on that was very, I'd say, funeral-ish, very kind of, you know, very
dirgy. Yeah.
And I put that sample, you know, in one of those pieces, and it just worked really well. And so what I did was I brought up this idea with John from Anthem again. And I was like, hey, what if we release a cassette of this concept and limit it to 100? But the thing about my grandmother's, you know, she wanted to live to be 100. That was her big bucket list. And she missed it by a year and a half. Wow. So I was like, well, let's make 100 of these and number them by dates from 1912 to 2012.
Oh, wow.
And instead of just numbering by, you know, the quantity, just name it by date. And right. And so the 2012 copy that I had, I buried at her grave. Mm. That was kind of my way of giving her that extra year that she wanted. I don't know. Right. It was a sentimental thing, but it was a very personal project. But it set the tone with doing this solo stuff that was really like ruminating on death and life, and, you know, that, you know, and the philosophies behind it. And it just made me really want to pursue more projects like that. So, you know, fast forward to 2014, I was in a band with Daniel Menchie called Beast. And I had planned to go to Arizona on a road trip, and Valletta came with me. She was my girlfriend at the time. And she took a bunch of photos on that trip, and we went to Arizona, we went to Nevada, went to Las Vegas, you know, all those places like that. Mm-hmm. And on the way back, it was really my first time, like, really experiencing the desert outside of like a tour. You know, I could really, like, I could actually explore places, and, you know. Yeah. And so anyway, you know, we would stop at a lot of these ghost towns on the way back from Vegas, and we were driving up through Nevada. Mm-hmm. And so in Goldville, Nevada, I got a speeding ticket.
That's that German engineering, man.
No, it's my lead foot is what it is.
Well, that too. That had a lot to do with it, I'm sure. Yeah.
So I got a speeding ticket in Goldfield, and we were like, well, we're here. Let's check this place out, because it was this small little quaint town. Mm-hmm. We found a pioneer cemetery, and all these graves from like the 1800s. And so she just started taking all these infrared photos of this cemetery, and there were a couple of graves there that were really, one thing that really I found very interesting is many of the graves said how they died, and a lot of them were by gunshot.
Okay, yeah.
And so that kind of awakened this whole Old West interest in me that I'd had since I was a kid growing up in Montana.
Right.
And, you know, and coupled with that, and like the old ruins towns that I visited, and just
assuming that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it right there.
Right. Yeah, this is off of
this is the last place I remember.
First solo album, last place I remember. Right. Again with the coordinates, which we'll get into in a minute. But your girlfriend did all the photos?
The girlfriend at the time, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's the other. Well, let me ask you this, like, because you're a little bit younger than I am, and I'm curious. You actually were born in, you know, kind of part of the Old West. I mean, Montana was. Although, where were you born?
Ellensburg, Washington.
Oh, that's right. You were born. Okay,
it's still the Old West. I mean, it's still.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, but you grew up.
A
lot of your formative years were in Montana, so still very, you know, Western. Yes, it's Northwestern, but it's Western.
Yeah.
Were you, as a young guy, were you into the spaghetti westerns?
Well, here we go.
the Leones, all that, the Ennio Morricone, and yeah.
Well, okay, so we'll get back to the last place I remember stuff. I'll answer your question now. So growing up in Montana was interesting because there wasn't a lot to do. It was a lot of, there's no major cities. Concerts don't usually go there.
Right.
That kind of thing. And so I remember my parents we would go on little road trips to towns in Montana, and we would often visit a place called Virginia City, which is this old West town.
Yeah.
It's still, functioning, but it's got the history, and it was a very wild place back in the day, and
Right.
So I would often go explore that living ghost town. And I don't know, it kind of put that bug in me. And I was like really fascinated by that stuff. And then in I want to say 1989, I was in middle school, and we went on a school field trip for my Montana history class to the mining museum in Butte. And, it's like a museum of the mining history of Montana.
Right.
And Butte was very much in the front of that.
Sure.
But what's cool about this museum is they have kind of an old West town that you can walk around, and they kind of they give you this experience of what it was like to be a miner in the 1800s type of thing.
Sure.
And so most of my schoolmates were thought this was lame, whatever. And I was the kid with the Venom shirt on that was like, this is rad.
except for the part where they got to, and kids, over here is where all the hookers were.
Yeah,
this
right.
is where all the guys came to at the end of the day.
But no, I loved it. I thought,
yeah.
I loved the aesthetic of that kind of bygone era.
Well, I have to ask you though, man. You mentioned Virginia City, and what's Virginia City really famous for?
Well, it depends on which one. There's one in Nevada too.
Well, that's the one I guess is that the one I'm talking about?
That's probably the one you're thinking of.
Yeah. What was that super famous for? Do you remember?
I should know this. Go ahead and tell me.
Bonanza, man.
Oh,
Bonanza was.
I didn't watch that.
Man, well, it was probably a little bit. That was probably about 10 years too early for you. But as a kid, man, because I think I'm about 10 older than you. As a kid, John, man, I loved that show. I religiously loved it, and that's where I kind of gravitate. Yes, it was Hollywood. The more now you go back and you look at it, it's pretty Hollywood. But at the same point in time, it was still that genuine Western sort of vibe that you got from it. Was for a young kid, it was pretty cool. I just wondered if that was something you had ever run across, but it doesn't sound like you did.
No, I mean, my mother, she watched Little House on the Prairie and stuff like that. I wasn't that interested in that stuff at the time, but I was more interested in just exploring the real shit.
Yeah.
And Montana was full of it. My dad and I would we'd go snowmobiling in the mountains, and we would come across these old ruins of mining towns and stuff and just kind of explore them. And it was awesome. It was fun.
Very cool. Yeah.
And, no, I actually didn't really get into the artistry of the Old West until a bit later, when I discovered spaghetti westerns and other acid westerns, by filmmakers like Jim Jarmusch and Jodorowsky and the like.
Right. Of course.
Dennis Hopper. But anyway, so back to last place I remember. So anyway, I was on that trip, and I came back, and I had a studio session with Daniel Menchie to record some guitar stuff for Beast, which I don't know if you know much of. Did he talk to you about that?
Yeah, we did. We talked about it in the interview. Yes, and I listened to it. That was almost 2 years ago, though. I'm kind of forgetting.
It's like techno noise.
Yeah.
We played a few shows. It was me, Daniel Menchie, and Joe Preston from Thrones. And
oh wow, okay.
And we played. I'd say we played. I don't know, 4 or 5 shows between 2014 and 2015. And anyway, so I did that session, and we basically the session was in the Agalock rehearsal room at the time. Which was a pretty big room. He just put some mics up. I had my rig, and he was just like, "All right, go." And I just made sounds that I thought would work.
Soundscapes. Yeah.
Yeah, soundscapes that I thought would work for Beast. And, you know, I think I recorded probably an hour and a half worth of music. And after that session, Daniel was just like, this is really good. This has an atmosphere to it that I was not expecting. And I told him about how I just got back from the desert and I was kind of, you know, invoking that aesthetic. And he was just like, you should keep most of this and make a record out of it. And that's where that started. And that's where this came into play. This is the cassette version of Last Place I Remember that came out in 2015.
Okay.
And
that precedes this then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just has the two main tracks. It doesn't have a bonus track.
The two almost 20 minute tracks, right?
Yeah. And so, you know, he kept some of the stuff I did and I took the rest and used it for my own work. And that was that. And then we started playing some shows together because he was really telling me, like, trying to convince me to play some solo shows. He's like, I know, you know, it's fun doing Agalock and all that, but it's really cool to be able to do, like, you know, solo, you know, impressionistic, you know,
your own thing, yeah,
type of shows. So we ended up playing our first show together. It was me solo, Daniel Minchie solo, and then it was Daniel and I together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were the two of us were the whole
the whole thing. Yeah. Was this in Portland?
That was in Portland at a venue called Turn.
Okay.
And then about 2 weeks after that, I got an offer to open for Solstafir at the Star Theater.
Oh,
and
wow.
Like,
yeah. Cool.
So I kind of had to step it up a little bit and incorporate something to make it interesting and maybe work on some more material. And then, so that's where a lot of the stuff from the second album actually started, was me preparing for that show. I actually ended up writing Loop 8, The Crossing, and a lot of what ended up becoming River of Iron, you know, that long track on that album.
Right. And so just to go back to this one real quick, this one came out when then?
So that came out in 2016.
16.
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
With the additional track, and this is right around the time, I guess, when Agalock is kind of...
Not yet.
Not yet. We're not there yet? Okay.
Not yet. We're not there yet. So anyway, you know, so I played the show with Solstafir. That ended up getting recorded, and it was nice. It was great. And I kind of treated that as a live exhibition for this new project that I had. And then later that summer, when Agalock was supposed to tour Europe, or when we did tour Europe, our opening act, Crown, had to cancel the first week. And sort of like last minute, my European booking agent was like, can you open those shows with this new solo thing you're doing? And so I did. And it was a pain in the ass, but it was fun. And so I really got to cut my teeth on doing this stuff really quickly. I mean, it just came. And then from that came an offer from Roadburn in 2016 and a tour offer with the Vision Bleak, who's, you know, it's members of Imperium and Nox Mortis, and, you know, doing their sort of Victorian Gothic rock.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, well, I need to do something more. I need to either release a CD or something to prepare for that. So that's where that CD came into play. I was just like, well, I'm gonna release it on CD in this really awesome packaging.
And it is
bonus track. And the bonus track is actually a remix of part of the live show I did with Solstafir. Yeah, like Daniel Minchie basically took that and he like slowed it down and he did some stuff to it, and it's awesome. It's actually
that last track I really like. It's got that very I like all the stuff. Okay, I like it all. You know, but I think we should say up front that if you're looking for Agalock, this is not Agalock. Okay, it's
no,
really not at all like that. And it's also music that you kind of have to invest yourself in. It's more like a soundtrack. I mean, it's very much like soundtrack music. Yeah,
it's sort of like a soundtrack to a non-existent film.
Right, exactly. You know, but just to go into real quick, you do this. You call it de-embossed because it's internal, right?
It's debossed, yeah.
Debossed, okay. And what's really cool about these I don't know what the paper is, but it feels almost like faux leather. It's got a very close to faux leather feel, which is really cool. You go above and beyond with the packaging. A lot of great photo work, which I guess is your
That was
lady.
Valletta, yeah.
Right. Really
she
cool.
did a lot of she did photography for Agalloch too. She did, and she's actually done photography for Wolves in the Throne Room and other bands.
Which is interesting now because Daniel's transitioning into putting his photo artwork out there.
Saw that.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. Has a great eye, man.
He does.
Great eye. And then also you do really cool stuff like this, man. I nerdy little weird thing, but to have the little envelope for the CD is such a like it's like a real vinyl album, you know.
Right.
So this is the first one, and this is the one that I've had the. I didn't have this one until you sent it to me the other week, and I hadn't heard it, and I do prefer the latest two over this one. I like this one, particularly the track 3, but it's interesting because like the hype sticker on there, which you put together, obviously, you name check a lot of the stuff that you go deep on, the stuff like the Coil, the Godspeed You Black Emperor, the early Godspeed. You know, talk about some of that and how those. Before we get to the second album, which by the way is Blood,
Cast Iron Blood.
Yeah, Cast Iron Blood, which is. Do I have it here? Oh yeah, which is this one here.
Mm-hmm.
And this one really, man, this one steps it all up.
Well,
in my opinion, it steps it up.
Well, let's get into the creative process behind it.
Yeah. So go ahead, talk about all that stuff and talk about all those bands that we talk about when you and I are hanging out, the Hoovers and the things that we've already discussed, the Coils and stuff. Talk about how those things were affecting you over and have continued to affect you over the last 20 years as an artist.
Well, you know, as a guitarist, I'm not really a skillful guitarist. I play guitar like a keyboard, as Don says. Mm-hmm. You know, he's all the technicality and skill, and I'm like the effects and the atmosphere and the songwriting. And so, as a guitarist, I just really wanted to dive even more into what can I do with effects and what can I do with feedback and you know, droning frequencies and things like that. When you turn an amp way up and you're playing an aluminum neck guitar that's feeding back and it's doing all kinds of stuff and
right.
You know, all these. I mean, I've got like I think when I did Last Place, I had like 3 pedal boards.
Yeah, you have a lot. You sent me pictures. You have a lot.
Yeah, and yeah. I had the Echoplex. I had like pretty much all my pedals and stuff at the time just hooked into each other just to see what I could come up with, and that's how that album. That's how Last Place I remember, you know, was created. It was on the fly. It was composed right then in the moment. And live, I had to go back and try to figure out what I was doing to sort of recreate some of it live, which, you know, it's kind of ironic that Last Place I Remember got probably the most promotion out of the 3 of them so far, because I did 2 tours for that album. I did a bunch of festivals for that album. And it's, you know, and I don't think people quite got it. It's like, oh, it's this guy from Agalloch playing with a bunch of effects. What the fuck? And I wish back then I would have had it more together like I do now, where I've got the bigger production. I've got the percussion and the other stuff going on in the video, but I didn't back then. I just did my best. And like on that European tour, half the time they didn't have a projector available for me. So I had to do it without the projections. And it was just, but, you know, it was a great way for me to dive into that. And it really was a saving grace for me when Agalloch split, because, you know, that was a very, very awful time in my life and their life. That whole thing was just awful. Yeah. It shouldn't have been, but it was. And I actually had a tour booked and some festivals booked like right after that happened. So I didn't know how people were going to react to this, if it was going to be hostile. Yeah. And it wasn't. I was lucky in that way. people just seemed to kind of take it for what it was. It wasn't me trying to do Agalok, and frankly, neither was Pelorian. But
No,
yeah. But anyway, so yeah, that was that. And then after the last place, and then actually I did I did some more shows opening for Pelorian when we were on tour with Wolves in the Throne Room in 2017. And by that point, I think I kind of exhausted the material for that album. I played so many shows locally and on the road and in Europe and everywhere. I even did a show in Brazil.
Wow.
Playing
This stuff?
Of the
Of
last
this stuff?
yeah.
Wow.
I opened a festival that had Enslaved and Solstafir and Latest Gray.
At the Gates?
Yeah. Huh?
At the Gates?
No,
Or
Latest
down in South America?
It was in Sao Paulo, yeah.
Oh, okay, Sao Paulo. Wow.
I talked about it a little bit when we did the Ulver deep dive, but
Well, so when you're doing this, primarily the building blocks early on, let's say for the first album in particular, was pretty much just a guitar and a signal chain and a lot of looping and manipulating and
going through 2 amps and
right. Yo, you were in stereo, right?
Oh yeah, I was running 2 amps like I do now.
Right. And so very early on, you could hear the things like maybe like the explosions in the sky post-rock thing. There's some of that post-rocky vibes to some of it, but it's not straight up post-rock though, because
I did not want it to be considered post-rock.
no, but from my perspective,
Sure.
and I'm hearing some of the key features like the chiming, 2 or 3 notes sort of things over like a military beat or something like that. Sort of that. I mean, it's just some of the things that those bands did a lot of, and I get where not all of your stuff, like the early stuff, was like that, but there was some key posty moments. It just wasn't like you were hearing a full band. You were hearing it more from a perspective of the stripped down elements of what you were doing with it. So
I think Cast Iron Blood had a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
With the percussion element.
Yeah. Because the first album doesn't have much drums at all, right? Yeah, none, right. No. And you're a drummer, which I found that interesting, but you decided to completely go away from that, not have any actual rhythm, like a defining rhythm. It's more a pulsing rhythm with the way these pieces open up from fast to sound.
If you notice, everything has an echo to it. It's just like you have like a note that will be like bing, bing.
Yeah.
It's like everything was repeating, and it had that but almost what's the word? It's like meditative,
Very meditative, yeah. And the other thing I really heard too, especially on the first album, was that kind of oh man, it was right there and it's gone. I mean, the Godspeed thing with kind of the swelling, because that's what they're kind of known for, that the swells and then the ebb and flow of it was kind of there. I mean, and you with the soundscapey stuff, you could really hear like Basinski or Steven Wilson's Bass Communion. There's a lot of, I hear the Bass Communion sort of swirly, cool sound too. So, but then it definitely ramps up. What's that?
There's definitely Basinski influence for sure.
No, for sure. Yeah. And these are all people that, I know you hold in high regard. So, you get to Cast Iron Blood, and yes, there's more of a percussive element. There's a more crunchy riff element to it. You've added what are more definable actual riffs, but they're not like metal riffs. They're just accent riffs to like build crescendos and have these heavy power chord things. And man, it's really, really good. Like that album really was where I was like, whoa, this shit's really cool, man.
Well, that album, I mean, the material on that album I had been writing since 2015, off and on, and I would do these tours. I'd do an Agalok tour, I'd do a Pelorian tour, and it would kind of get in the way. And then in early of 2018, I got an offer to do a full US tour with Anna von Hauswolf, and I was stoked, but I was like, shit, I have to make a new album to do this.
Yeah.
So I had a year in 2018 while Pelorian was also doing tours and working on our second album. It was a very busy year. And then, and I'd recorded a lot of stuff for what would have been that album. But then the tour didn't happen. It fell through. And I'm kind of glad it did, because had I released the album then, it would have been rushed and it wouldn't have been as good as it was after I let the material stew for another year.
Right.
And
you added some other players, right? Because originally on the first album, I think everything's just you, right? Or is there one?
I mean, for Cast Iron Blood, I had a violinist.
Okay. So that was it. Everything else
was me. I mean, Tad kind of helped with some of the arrangements of the percussion, because he was a percussionist and a drummer. He actually played on Mark Lanigan's second album.
Yeah, I saw that Tad Doyle did that, and I was kind of surprised. How did you end up getting hooked up with Tad?
Funny story. Well, I've been a Tad fan since the early 90s. I mean, Tad was probably my favorite grunge band. Because they just had this vibe that was so dark and grungy.
Funky and kind of...
No, not funky, like just...
No, punky and kind
punky,
of metal.
Yeah.
Kind of metal, more metal. And dark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, and they kind of had that backwoods Idaho kind of vibe. It was just like, it was cool. It was different than what else was going on in Seattle at the time.
I agree, yeah.
So I especially love this album, was it Salt? What's the second album called? Anyway, I like that album.
The one with the bug on it?
No, the one that had the band cover.
Oh yeah, what the hell was that called? I'd have to look it up.
My mind has just gone blank. Anyway, somebody will probably remember. Oh God, why can't I remember that? It's gonna drive me.
I got it for you.
Anyway, so when I played Roadburn solo, I got to share a backstage with Tad Doyle, because he was there doing the Brothers of the Sonic Cloth.
Yes, I saw them actually.
Yeah, and then also I had to share a backstage with was
Salt Lake.
No, not Salt Lake. Not Salt Lake. 8-Way Santa. That's
8-Way Santa.
8-Way Santa. Anyway, so I'm sharing a backstage with Tad Doyle and also the guys from Talcross, which included Away from Voivod.
Yeah.
And the Baron from Amoebix. I mean, it was fucking crazy backstage.
I bet, yeah.
And then Over was across the hall. So,
Poor guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I met him at Roadburn, and we got to talking, and he had a studio in Seattle, and we ended up recording the Pelorian album, or a lot of the Pelorian album, the guitars and stuff, at Tad's place.
Oh wow.
Yeah, in 20, I guess would have been 2016, shortly after I'd met Tad. So so I had that connection. And after Pelorian had split up, and I had, was kind of my slate was completely clean and everything. I wanted to do something musical again, and so I decided to resurrect this project, because it had been I hadn't really touched it. The last live show I did was in October of 2017 in Seattle. I didn't do any shows in 2018 because that tour got canceled. 2019 was a hell of a year for me. So what I ended up doing was, I just decided to go in and with Tad and record the material I had, which I had plenty of material for it. And so I did that over the course of a few months in 2019. Obviously there was no expectation for it by anyone. Nobody knew I was doing it. So it was great to do it in that kind of relaxed environment of, yeah, maybe I'll release this, maybe I won't, type of thing.
Right.
But while I was working on that material is when I kind of decided to do a trilogy, because on a separate trip through the desert, when I went to actually film a lot of the footage for the
backdrop,
the projections, those are filmed at Monument Valley and Arches National Park in Utah.
Yeah, right.
a lot of that stuff is filmed in those locations. So, and on that trip is when I really decided, you know what, I want to do more with this project. I want to do like a trilogy, and I want each album to have the same kick-ass packaging as the CD version of Last Place. And, you know, I wanted to tell a story. And that's where I started to really think about like the story of this Nomad. And anyway, so Cast Iron Blood conceptually was kind of an album I always wanted to make, because it was the first time I could really do an Old West experimental album. And I wanted it to kind of portray the time period between 1869 and 1895, or 1865 and 1895, which was essentially the Wild West.
Yeah, right.
And so that's why that album was a step up, because I really wanted to incorporate samples of trains and percussion, and I wanted it to be like a Morricone soundtrack, but with amps and, you know,
which it has that vibe to it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the other band that I was trying to think of that just finally came back to me is, I believe in the Godspeed family, is Set Fire to Flames.
Yes.
This stuff is very Set Fire to Flamesy. And again, when I say this, John, I'm not saying, oh, sounds exactly like that. It's not that at all. It's evocative of that particular band, which did, I believe, two albums? Two albums. Two, which I have somewhere for who knows, wherever, somewhere.
I seem to remember the second one being better.
Yeah, they're both doubles as far as I recall. But there's tracks on there that are found sound, where they're field recordings, kind of in the early Basinski realm of things. Andrew Lyles, those kind of artists, Daniel Menchie, those are the kind of artists that are fairly well known for that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's very evocative of particularly the second one, the Old West. There's no doubt. It just kind of brings in, did you actually write a narrative, or was it just a narrative in sound that you were putting together mainly? Yeah,
it's more of an aesthetic narrative rather than an actual, I mean, there is kind of a story, but it's loose. It's, the Nomad was basically a renegade, and, he was on the run, and, and then he was caught, executed, and he became this ghost that continues to, basically travel through the metaphysical desert carrying his time period with him. And that's essentially what the story was.
And the weird thing is, you brought up Tarkovsky or whatever. And this music would lend itself quite well to Stalker, the album Stalker. Because Stalker...
I agree.
You don't agree?
I don't agree. I think Stalker it's a different vibe.
Yeah, I feel like Stalker sometimes...
Explain to me why you think so.
Well, I will. I will. So Stalker, for me, in a weird sort of way, is almost like a science fiction Old West movie, just done in Russian. To me, I've always felt it.
I can see that comparison a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, they just showed Stalker in the theater here a couple weeks ago. Stalker and Nostalgia, and I ended up going to see Nostalgia with my girlfriend because I actually like Nostalgia more.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, it's awesome. And actually, I like The Mirror more than Stalker, but Stalker is my solid third. I wanted to go see Stalker, but some stuff came up, so I just didn't. I own it. I have it. I've seen it so many times.
I have it too. I've seen it a bunch too. Nah, it's just kind of a vibe. It kind of has that forlorn, ghostly sort of vibe. That movie has that vibe too. Mm-hmm. But I guess, I'm just coming at it. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Maybe I'd go back and watch it here in the next week and try to listen to your music over and be like, yeah, maybe that doesn't fit. But anyway, so you said you didn't actually write a script or anything like that, but
no,
you did do some videos, right?
Well, I mean,
for your backdrops.
So here's for the backdrops, yeah,
right,
yep.
And they're very evocative of the Old West. I mean, you shot these on site. Who did that for you? Was it just you?
It was myself, and Valletta did some because she's got an infrared video camera. So
shoot at night.
No, not at night. I mean, it's like during the daytime, but it gives it that strange, like otherworldly look.
Otherworldly feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, this was in 2015. Actually, on that trip, I was in Las Vegas the night that there was that attack in Paris. So it was November.
Oh shit! The Eagle of Death Metal. Yeah, the Eagle of Death Metal thing.
Yeah. And that was funny because I remember I showed up at my hotel and I saw that on the news, and I immediately contacted Nej from Alcest, who lives like right next to that venue.
No way.
Yeah, and he told me some crazy stories about that night.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah. So that kind of gives you an example of when that stuff was filmed.
But this came out in 2020, right?
Yeah. So anyway, and that photograph on the cover was actually taken in 2017. So
where are you at there? Which desert?
That's actually down by the coast. There's some white sand kind of beaches that are close to the California border.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's actually you. That's
me.
No, but it's actually
that's Oregon. Yeah.
Oregon. Yeah. So go ahead. This is you're working on this to get more material because you were going to go out on that tour that didn't happen,
right?
And then you had more time to work on it. And now in the interim, though, and I have it here, but I if you have one, it's easier. The Whiskey and Rust.
That's later.
But that's after this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it was recorded before, but it was released after.
That's what I was getting at, though. That material was you were working on that as well.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I've been seeing some people saying that Whiskey and Rust is part of this trilogy. It's not.
Right.
It starts with Last Place, I remember, then Cast Iron Blood, then The Devil's Coil. Whiskey and Rust was just a collection of B-sides and rarities and live
things
stuff
you had laying around.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. What? Where did? Are these archival, or did you take these? I
actually took those photos. They were actually taken at the Snoqualmie steam train graveyard.
Oh wow!
And so yeah, which was awesome. Because it was like Snoqualmie, Washington, land of Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I was spending a lot of time in Issaquah at the time, so I was just up there all the time. And there's that whole train graveyard. And I think one of those trains, possibly one of the ones that I used in a photo on the album, was used in Firewalk with Me.
That's way.
The murder happened was in those trains.
No way.
So, yeah. So that's a little bit of bringing my love of Twin Peaks to my project as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Didn't know that. That's really cool.
Again, those are still there.
They are still there. The graveyard.
It's just there. I mean, it's kind of like a museum / graveyard because they're outside just decaying.
Were you as a kid always into like trains? Was trains always one of those things that kind of made you think? Because I was
like a psychiatrist.
Well, no, and here's the reason I ask is because my dad, one of the few things, like my dad and I are not very close. We live together strangely, but there's not my family doesn't have the love gene in them. They don't say the word. I do to my kids, but they don't. But the one thing my dad used to do, which some people would hear this and be appalled, but he would take me and my brother up to, this area that I actually live near now, which there's two lines, and it used to be the Norfolk, Virginia, and it was a whole bunch of different railroad lines. And we'd go watch trains. Now, my dad would sit there with a 6-pack and get loaded and then drive. Not too smart. But that was his hangout with me and my brother when we were preteens. And I still have this weird love of trains. Like when a train goes by, I almost feel like I got to stop and watch it. Or, if I'm out of my car.
I have a fascination with old steamer trains.
Yeah.
I've got several books on them, and I find them fascinating. Yeah, more so than modern trains.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. But so it was cool to go to that graveyard and find some cool shots because those are wicked looking, man. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And what I did was, I just took those photos with my phone, and then I put it. I had an effect in Lightroom that I made them look like
sepia and
web photography and stuff. So yeah, so they're heavily processed, but yeah.
So did you? So that comes out in 20, but you'd been working on that stuff since 15, right?
2015, yeah.
Yeah. And were you able to? I guess because it comes out in 20, the whole world shuts down then. So you never really got to go out and do much with it, right?
I originally wanted it to come out in 2019.
Yeah.
But I also at the time was like, maybe this won't come out. Maybe I'll just keep it for myself. And so I kind of sat on it once I was done recording it. And while I was sitting on it, COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so when I decided to actually go get it made, the plant was shut down. So it was delayed until the summer of 2020 when it finally was able to get pressed.
Right.
Because it had to be that packaging. So I had to use the same plant as last time.
Yeah, right.
And that shit is not cheap, let me tell you.
No, you do it really right, man. I'm telling you now. The new one, the Devil's Coil, you're actually sealing. You're doing a bundle pack.
You broke the seal.
I did break the seal.
Why the?
Well, you were saying cut it open.
Cut the top, man.
I was very careful not to break the seal, though. I didn't break it.
Okay.
So I was able to actually
Yeah.
So
I mean, the only version that's going to be like that is part of the special edition. So
it's the bundle, right? The bundle.
Yeah, right.
So the bundle edition, which there's 60 of them, is that correct? Or are you going to
60 for the public? Yeah. I mean, obviously there's a few that I sent, given my friends and to you.
Right. Yeah.
I sent one to the Wire magazine in London.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because I figured that packaging might get it some attention. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the new one again. We've got the JH symbol there, the debossed or whatever, however you say that. And then we've got again a lot of cool artwork. I'm assuming this is an old schoolhouse you were shooting in.
No, I didn't shoot those photos. That was a friend of mine, Joshua Chapman, who lives in North Carolina, and that was actually a church in the Appalachians.
Oh, an Appalachian church. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of really, really, really killer artwork in here.
Yeah, because I art directed that shoot. I was like, because he was telling, he loves to go out and find like decaying buildings and stuff.
So do I. Yeah.
And he's got an infrared camera. He's got a pinhole camera. He's into cool experimental photography. So I just said, hey, could you go to a few of these churches and take some photos, and I'll just choose which ones are the best. And I kind of described to him what I was looking for, and he found most of them. Most of them were taken in that one church, but the organ was taken somewhere else. There's a pump organ photo in there.
Yeah.
And then the photos of me were actually taken in my house.
Oh, were they?
By Valletta, yeah. She had agreed to do
that. Is that a friend of the photographer's? That's not you?
That's Photoshop.
Oh, that's you photoshopped in.
Yeah, because if you notice on the first album, that's me.
Yes.
That's the same picture of me from the first album.
Yeah.
I just put it into
I did take notice of that. I was wondering.
Bring it all around, yeah. It's highly conceptual for sure.
And then there's this weird thing, man. And I was like, come on, dude, because the very first song is, tell them the name of the first song.
The anatomical dissection, or wait, I can't.
Yeah, you said it's your title.
It's your shaking. It's fine.
No. Anatomical dissection and
postmortem medical examination of John Lewis D.L. Haughm following his execution by hanging in September 1989.
All right. So who is this John Lewis D.L. Haughm? Who is this person?
That's me.
That's you.
Yeah, it's my full name.
For real?
Yeah. I've gone by variations of my name through the past, but that's my fucking name.
So Lewis is your middle name?
Louis DL, yeah. And actually DL, okay, so here's a funny story about that. So my family is Scottish.
Okay.
And from the DL clan. The Dalzell clan.
Okay.
And so when I was born, my mom was filling out my birth certificate or whatever, and there wasn't enough room for the entire name. So she just phonetically put DL.
No way.
And that just stuck. So now it's just John Lewis DL Haughm, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But it's whatever.
You look pretty weird.
That's not me. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, talk about this because this has weirded me out. It really weirds me out.
All right. Well, okay. I'm going to get to that. Let's talk about the creative process behind this album.
Sure.
Okay. So after Cast Iron Blood came out, I couldn't do anything. There were no shows. I went to Wyoming and went to different cities in my outfit and did like a silent tour of the old West just for fun.
Right.
That was it. I mean, that was all I could really do. I could just put it out and sell it, and there was no promotion really for it. It was a real shame. And then so fast forward to about 2021, and I was thinking, okay, I want to finish this trilogy, because one of the worst things in my existence is unfinished plans.
Right.
Like I'm a total neurotic Virgo.
Neurotic about that. Yeah.
Typical fucking yeah.
Yeah.
And like to this day, it bothers me that Pelorian didn't release the second album, but I just have to fucking let it go. But anyway, so to do a trilogy, typically you'd want to do it within like 3 years or 6 years.
Yeah.
Not 10 years.
10 years. Yeah, yours took 10 years.
Because anything can happen in those 10 years and your trilogy could not be complete. I mean, right. I was afraid the whole time that maybe that packaging wouldn't be available anymore. Maybe that plant would shut down after COVID or something.
Yeah, right.
Or God forbid something happens to me and I
right.
I get killed or whatever and I can't finish the project. So I was like, it was really bothering me to put this thing to bed, and finish it. And I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know where to go with this project because, it's planned as it goes along, really.
Sure.
But what I did want to do is I wanted to do something that was very different from the first two. Like it stands on its own, but it had elements of the first two.
Yes.
So at the time I was listening to a lot of Blackheart Procession, and I thought, especially the first album and the third album are like my favorites. And I was like, maybe I should do something that's kind of like this, like kind of like a laid back, folky, kind of start this project where Grave Nails and Blood Trails left off. Something with more acoustics and more violins and maybe some low, slow drums. And that's where the Spectral Keeper came from. The second track on the album, the one that kind of has a talk vibe to it.
Very much towards the end, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, I didn't, but then I thought, well, I don't want to make a whole album like this. So then I kind of scrapped that idea, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do, maybe I'll just do another noise album, just to kind of bookend them. Something that's very similar to Last Place I Remember, 2 long tracks of experimental noise, and that way it kind of creates a bookend but that kind of goes against everything I stand for artistically, to just throw something out there and not a lot of effort into it. So I scrapped that idea. And I was really just had no idea what to do with it until I found a book at Paxton Gate on medical dissection from the 19th century. Learned a lot from that book.
Yeah, everybody's buying those books everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I'm looking through this book and there's like, I didn't know this, but back in the day, it was very difficult. Like autopsies were very frowned upon by families.
Yeah.
A lot of religious superstition.
Desecration of the body. Blah.
Right. That was not a kosher thing back then. So it was. So physicians and doctors had to find ways to get cadavers to research and do medical research on.
Right.
Find diseases and to find, how the body works basically. And sometimes it was procured by grave robbery.
The Body Snatcher.
I mean, maybe something like that.
That movie, The Body Snatcher?
Yeah.
With Karloff and Bela Lugosi. I love that fight. Yeah. God.
But I guess another way that they obtained bodies back then was from when they would execute someone for a crime, that didn't really have a family or anything. Instead of just burying them, they would be taken to these like medical schools, in a way donated for science, but probably not in those terms.
Yeah, right.
And so I'm looking through this book and it's hilarious. I mean, this totally fits with my sense of humor because it's just like, I'm laughing my ass off because every page, it's like they had these like cadaver societies back then, these like clubs of physicians and medical students who would get their hands on a dead body and they would fucking dissect it.
Which is fucking weird, right?
And then they'd have these like almost like class photos of them.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, like this. This is one of them.
Because I hit you up, I'm like, dude, that's not real, right? That's from a movie, right? You're like, no, that's real. I'm like, what? For real?
Well, and it's, you know, I'm laughing at these because I'm like, these people are dressed up, all dapper. They got their bowler hats on.
Like a Sunday afternoon thing, and they're cutting bodies up. Yeah.
Smoking cigars, and so they would have almost like these class photos where they're all standing around this slab with this torn apart carcass.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, dude. Yeah.
And they're just it was almost like they were band photos in a way, you know. It's like, and they
like early black metal band photos.
Right. And some of them even had names. Like there was one of these clubs called the Skull and Crossbones Society.
Oh shit! Straight out of fucking. What was the movie? The thing with Mork and Mindy, dude. What was that movie called? What's his name? Robin Williams. The teacher when he was a teacher, and they had the secret society.
It rings a bell.
You know that movie? Oh, fuck.
Okay.
The something society.
Okay,
but they did that though. That really is what they did back then. It was Dead Poet Society. That's it. Yeah, Dead Poet.
Oh, Dead Poet Society. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm looking through this book and it fucking hits me. I'm like, oh my God, I know how I'm gonna finish this trilogy. I'm going to have a track that's the soundtrack of my own autopsy following my execution by hanging, and it's going to be done with instruments only available back then in the late 1800s.
Right. Yeah. So you just did it with all,
and that's where, and then it was like, okay. So I had that idea, and then I had another idea, like, you know how the album ends technically with a fine hymn to die to. It's that piano and noise.
Really cool. Really.
My original idea was to actually have side A be the long track with the old instruments and the autopsy, and then side B was going to be a 20-minute long piece version of that fine hymn to die to. But then I was like, yeah, I mean, that was one idea I had for this album. And then I was like, well, you know what? I really liked what I had written with the Spectral Keeper. And then I started working on this track called To Thine Barbed Wire Noose Be True.
Right.
And that ended up being like this climactic track that harkened back to the Cast Iron Blood.
Yeah, it's super good, dude. It's super good. Yeah.
And once I had all that, I was like, okay, I think I've got this thing figured out. And then I started to piece it together, and I spent about a year and a half putting it all together, and finally was able to get the cello done in January of this year.
Yeah, I remember talking to you. You were like kind of tripping on that. You're like, I gotta find somebody. I got somebody, but then they couldn't do it. And
right. But the last thing I wanted to do is, you know, I wanted to keep this project esoteric and weird and psychedelic in a way. And that, so, you know, how I didn't want to have like some just typical Old West execution, bad, you know, outlaw thing. I wanted to be something more. And that's where the whole autopsy thing came into play. I was like, oh my God, that this is an element that no one ever fucking talks about, really. And then to do it for myself.
Yeah. So real quick, and I don't have the link, but I'll get it from you. I think just resend it to me. The direct, well, I have it in our emails. The direct link that gets you in to get the bundle. Now the bundle comes with this cool sealed packet. It comes with a postcard that's personalized.
Mm-hmm.
John,
I can't find it. There it is.
Yeah. John says, "Hey Jeff, you're a dick. Thanks."
Yeah.
He's right. He's kind of right about that. No, he didn't say it. He said, "Thank you." What did you say there? Much obliged for your kind support. So there you go. Because we've been planning this for, I don't know, 2.5 months, something like that, to talk about this. Then you have just a promo, a promo sheet of, you're holding your family pet there, which is Tell us that. What the hell is that?
Well, I
thing?
have a collection. So I have a collection of mummies and wet specimens, and a lot of other artifacts. I got human bones. I've got a very large curio cabinet, which you can actually kind of see in some of those photos.
Okay.
And that was a mummy of a possum that I was gifted back probably 10, 15 years ago. And it just kind of goes along with the sort of strange psychedelic thing that I wanted to portray on this record. It's a weird album. And I wanted
what
to
though?
be visually weird.
It is, but I got to be honest with you, dude. It's my favorite one already. And I really liked the second one. The first one I haven't listened enough to. I really like the third. Really like the third track. What's it called? The third track on the first one?
I was like 511.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, it's just numbers.
Yeah. That's a really beautiful track. Reminds me a lot of a track off of Steven Wilson's, not the same, but in a similar vein to a song off of Ghosts on Magnetic Tape that Steve put out back in 2003. It's got that vibey, ethereal, angelic kind of thing. But this one is really superior in many ways. The interplay between all the instruments that you brought in is really well done. It's diverse the whole way through. It's diverse, and it's engrossing. There are a lot of really cool melodies on here, haunting melodies that are really beautiful. You do a lot of really cool guitar work that, again, like you say, you're not Joe Satriani or Steve Vai, and that's most of us aren't. Those guys are rare, but you have a real feel for catching melancholic vibes, and they're all over on this thing.
Yeah, that's what Don always says. He says that I'm really good at writing like catchy, hooky riffs or something, and like he's joked that I'm more of a pop guitarist than a metal guitarist.
Kind of. I mean,
but I don't.
I guess. I mean, but there's nothing wrong with that. There's some fucking crazy, goddamn good pop guitar players out there. I mean, Carlos Alomar, guys that mind blowing.
Johnny Marr. I mean, really.
Johnny Marr. Fucking what's the dude? Dan Huff from Giant. What a crazy killer guitar player that guy. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. But so now the trilogy's finished. I know that you've got this bundle, which I'll put the link to. And again, the bundle, I believe right now you said it's 60 sets that you will do. You'll hand sign a card to them. You also have a T-shirt. Do you have this shirt to show real quick?
Yeah.
The T-shirt goes with the bundle.
Yeah.
It's the JH, the symbol.
Yeah, there it is. And then on the back is
your buddy, the possum.
The other side.
That's a cool shirt, man.
Yeah.
That's a cool shirt. I have one coming, but I got to get it in a couple weeks from John. So that is the bundle for the Devil's Coil. I think if you haven't investigated any of these, you should, and you might want to just start at the beginning and work your way up or work back. There's no real, you're not going to lose anything if you get the Devil's Coil and go backwards. You'll just be kind of brought into this world and John's sort of concept of this. What are you hoping? I know you and I privately chatted about this. I think you're hoping that maybe some kind of cool tour would evolve and as an opener for somebody. We actually talked about Wayfarer and, there's a couple bands that I think you'd really fit in well with. What do you have any plans, or is it just going to be one of those take an opportunity if it happens? I know you're going to North Carolina for a video, right? So,
yeah, I'm going to do a video. It'll be sometime after MDF. I'm going to basically the guy who photographed the album is going to videograph the video. So, and I wrote out all the shot lists and everything, and there's going to be props and yeah.
That's the guy that did the photos in the booklet.
And then my editing guy Tattoo will edit it. He's the one who did the other video that I released a couple of years ago.
When you do this now, because you did a couple of shows not that far back. What didn't you do something out in Portland recently?
I did a couple of shows last year.
Was it late last year?
It was summer last year.
Oh, okay. It was that far back. So when you do those, are you running a track though with some of the backing stuff in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's my new setup. Is I have basically new video that's connected to the basic
The backing tracks. Yeah. Mhm.
just the percussion and maybe a bass guitar and a couple of reference pieces and like train sounds for a river
Yeah.
ride.
Sure.
And I fill in everything else live, including the vocals. And I there's a video of me doing my thing. It's a full video of my performance at Lunasa Cascadia last year, and I'm actually playing it this summer as well. And I'm doing a whole different set list that I'm currently working on right now with Tattoo to get the video stuff squared away.
Yeah, you sent me a link to that. I watched that. Send that back to me again. I'll link it in the description then too.
Okay.
And
there's the
yeah.
You can also link the video that I did. Scars Make It the Man, which is
sure. Just send me the links. I'll put them in there. It would be it would be really cool. Like I think the Wayfarer thing really would have had a cool vibe. We just didn't have enough time to maybe nurture that thing. I will be seeing Isaac next week, and
he just came to Portland.
Yeah, did you go?
No.
Did you go? Okay,
No.
I'll say something to him and see what kind of things they have going on. If they have something coming up, I might be like, hey man, this would be maybe a cool thing to open for you. I mean, that would really kind of work.
I think I think part of the problem though is there's a lot of politics in the music business, and so when you get a band like, say, for instance, Solstafir, who I've opened for before, they're on Century Media now, and so I'm sure their agency is going to want
a bigger name
with more clout. Maybe another band that could pay to be on the tour or whatever. I mean, I don't think that I will get that opportunity as a solo artist now.
John Haughm solo wouldn't be
for a band like that. I mean, back in 2015 or 2016 when I was with the Vision Bleak and Saturnus, that was like a friendly thing. They were friends with my booking agent, and it was a little more relaxed and stuff. But I think now, the bigger the band and they get on these really big booking agencies and stuff, and the booking agency wants the most out of they'll want to have like even maybe another one of their bands that they book.
Yeah, they want to put asses in seats so that they can sell more merch and all that stuff.
So my solution to that is to take advantage of Agalock shows. Boom.
Right.
Because that way I can play in front of a sold out audience.
And it's your audience in a lot of ways.
It's my audience.
Yeah.
And as long as there's a band after me and before Agalock, I can do it easily. I did it in San Francisco, and it was I pulled it off beautifully. That makes the most sense to me than doing some fucking show where I'm chasing or I'm either getting paid pennies to open for some big band or do my own tour where I'm playing in front of 4 people a night.
Right. Yeah. So I could just see it though, that show at San Francisco. It'd be almost hilarious if you were there and somebody that didn't know who you were was like, dude, you suck, bring out Agalock.
Somebody did. I actually saw a comment where somebody asked who was that guitarist that opened for Agalock.
Oh my God, are you serious?
That's great. I mean, I think that's fantastic.
You like that though, yeah.
I'm not the guy from Agalock when I'm doing this project.
That's a good point. Good point.
I'm this other thing. So and of course, that way I can play these like big venues with amazing sound systems and big projections and
to a fairly large crowd.
Yeah, I mean the San Francisco show was brilliant. I mean, that was at the Regency Ballroom.
Yeah, great venue.
The sound was phenomenal. Jason said of all the shows that he's seen me do, that was the best one. So, we're onto something. And so yeah, I do have a show coming up in June in Portland at the venue Azoth, and I'm going to use that show to kind of test out my new set list for the Lunasa Cascadia Festival that will be in July.
Cool.
And then in September, I've got a couple of shows coming up that will be announced later this month. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now I will be honest with you. This one, I've not spun yet. I didn't spin the. Shit, what did I do with it?
Is it Whiskey and Rust?
No, I have that one on that I have on tape. The Vinci thing.
Oh, yeah.
I listened to it way back on the full thing. I listened to it way back on I want to say 4 or 5 years ago on Bandcamp, and I was, you know how it is. You put a list together on Bandcamp, and then you're like, then you see how much it's going to cost you. You go, oh, I'll rethink this in the morning, and then you forget about it. So that one never happened. And then I tried to get a copy off of Daniel for, I don't know, like a year, and I finally gave the hell up on that. So I do need to listen to that. What do you still have any of? You said you were almost out of the Whiskey and Rust tapes, right?
Yeah, I've actually sold a lot with this new album, so I think I might have 20 left. Which, considering it was released in a quantity of 100 like 2 years ago, that's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But
Here's the actual tape. Real neat little figured box. Has the nail and the twine, and the tape is kind of cool. It's nice O card here. Wait, is that what they're called? O cards or J cards?
J card.
J card, sorry. What's an O card? Is that the
O card is when the seat or when the tape goes inside this like glued wrap around.
Yeah, my only issue with this is I am not much of a cassette guy, but I bought it to support you. It's good. I liked it though. I dig it. It's just
Well, you know, like I said, it's not part of the trilogy. It was a side deviation.
I got number 1848.
And I did the same thing with this, where it was like I did it from 1800 to 1900, or yeah. So
yeah,
it was similar to my grandmother's tape.
Were you close to your grandma?
Yeah. She was born in 1912. She came from that era that I'm curious about, interested.
I was very close to my grandma. That's why I say, you know, while I don't have a great family structure at all, my brother and I haven't talked to each other in almost 4 years. He's not a guy I like. A lot of them are Trump. They're Trumpers too. My old man's like a mega Trumper, so it's like I don't go there much. You know what I mean? Anyway,
my grandmother was. I think I got some of my sense of humor from her because she had a very dark, twisted sense of humor.
Wait, John, you have a sense of humor, John? All
at times, yeah.
I'm just teasing. Hey, you are doing, to touch real quickly, you guys are headlining Friday night, correct? Am I right? Friday night?
I'm not playing.
You are playing with your band Agalok. You are playing.
I'm playing.
Maryland Death Fest. You are playing. Yeah, okay, sorry, that guy. The guy without the hat. My apologies.
Right.
Yeah, you guys are playing which day? Friday?
Friday.
Yeah, and you're headlining.
Yeah.
You're headlining indoor. You're playing, I believe.
No, we're playing the big stage.
Oh, you're on the outside. You're out.
Is that the power?
Yeah, power plants outside.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
We're on after. I looked at the schedule. We're on after Arcturus.
Yeah. Let me pull that up a minute real quick. That's probably for me the best night overall.
Well, I'm gonna stay through Saturday because I want to see Dismember.
Here, I'm gonna.
And you know, it's something I didn't really touch upon when we were talking about the dissection photo that was in the thing in the new album. You know, along with a lot of these obscure references and interests that I have in this project, a lot of it is just, there's little pieces of it that are telltale scraps of who I am as a person and my upbringing. So that picture, including that photo, was kind of an homage to my love of old death metal, Carcass albums and stuff like that. And the fact that I use like HM2 pedal on the guitars for, all of these albums actually, was, it's like a tipping.
That is crazy. You're using HM2 on here. You don't really hear it per se.
You do. If you listen to the end of Barbed Wire, You hear it. There's that chainsaw. It's there.
It's got the chainsaw, but it's masked with a lot of
It's layered with a lot of other guitars.
Layered with a lot of prettiness. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it doesn't like bite your head off like it would on Left Hand Path or something. Yeah, real quick on this lineup deal here. So the pre-show, which I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet because I really want to see Kelly and Atheist, but I don't. This is the one I don't actually have a ticket to, and it's been sold out for a while. And I actually have tickets to see Spectral Voice, Cathealist, and Esoteric that night in Philly. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. But you guys, yeah, you're on Friday here.
Yeah.
At Marketplace.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I know what that is. That's outside.
Is that the bigger one?
No, the power plant's slightly larger.
Oh, weird.
But I think this is almost the same size, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it looks like they're maybe putting. Well, wait a minute. What's the time? All right. Can you see that?
I think they play at like 9:30 or something.
You guys are on 9:30 to 10:40.
Yeah, which we have a set list that is about an hour and 15 minutes long, so we'll have to compensate for that.
What do they have you down for?
An hour and 10.
Hour and 10. Okay.
But I mean, I'm a little nervous because we're not going to be able to rehearse for that show.
Well, the good news is though nobody's on at all while you're playing.
Well, we are the last band on that stage, so maybe they'll let us go over a little bit.
They probably will.
Because, I mean, there's also 10 minutes between us and Ahab, so that gives us a little bit of time as well.
Right. Yeah.
But no, we're just going to, we're going to do like what we did in Denver and just plow through it. And it'll probably be a very similar set list as Denver because, we're not going to be able to rehearse the stuff.
Well, I didn't get to see it. So I've never gotten to see it, so it'll be a first for me. So whatever, it's going to be good. Right. I'm stoked to see that. And then you said you're sticking around till Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So you're around for Saturday. I know
Saturday is Dismember, Sacrifice, Forbidden.
Oh shit.
And Yellow Eyes. I really want to see Yellow Eyes. They played with Florian in New York, and they were great.
Yeah, Gorguts is Sunday, isn't it? Aren't they? Yeah. So we'll probably get to hang out a little bit there. Go out and grab some beers or something like that. Anybody that we'll talk real quickly because you didn't really touch on this. Like, talk about some of those definitive touchstones for you as far as creating some of this stuff where you were. Again, this doesn't sound like anybody else, but there are reference points to a lot of your favorite kind of niche artists that maybe if people don't know you that well, they wouldn't know that you're big into Coil and you're big into Death in June and Godspeed and Set Fire to Flames. I mean, these are some of the bands, but talk about, and obviously Talk. What were some of the touchstones for you that kind of helped you kind of as you're putting things together and you're going, oh, this is the Talk moment of the album, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Talk. That was influential on Cast Iron Blood. There was the song, and I talked about this in another interview back in the day, or back when that came out. So Scars Make It the Man. There are two sort of E-bowed guitars that are floating with each other on top of the rhythms on that track. And I when I was in the studio with Tad, I was like, okay. I told him my plan. I was like, okay, so I want to kind of do a Mark Hollis thing where I just play it and we keep the first take. Because Mark Hollis was always like, the first take is the best take. And I was like, I'm just going to play through the whole thing. If I fuck up a note, we can punch it. It's fine. But I want to keep the first take. And so we did one guitar, went through it, fixed a couple of, botch notes. And then I had him mute that guitar, and I did it again in a different register with a different guitar and different effects, and did the whole thing again. And then we listened to it, and it was so haunting, the way that they just kind of, floated with each other, and
fell in and out of each other.
Sometimes they would harmonize, sometimes they wouldn't, and so that was one way that I brought that talk influence into this project. There wasn't really much of a Death in June or really much of a neo folk influence, aside from maybe Blood or Grave Nails and Blood Trails, which was that acoustic track.
Cool track.
And that was the one that Misha Cayenne, she did the violin for. And that was an interesting one too, because that was actually recorded with 2 baritone guitars. One of them was a baritone EGC that a friend of mine had lent me, and the other one was an acoustic baritone that was lent to me by Rick Vaughn, who's a friend of Tad's. Originally, though, when I asked Tad, I was like, "Hey, do you know anyone with a baritone acoustic?" And he's like, "Mark might." And I'm like, "Mark?" And he's like, "Yeah, Lanigan." I'm like,
"Oh, yeah."
Wait, were you just gonna call up Mark?
Yeah, right.
Guitar for me?
This is obviously before Mark passed.
Oh yeah, this was 2019. I don't even think Mark lived in Seattle at the time, but maybe he did. I don't know. But and Tad was just like, yeah, he's not around. So, but yeah, I was just like, holy shit, imagine if that would have happened.
Wow, yeah.
But
very cool.
But yeah, so that and that was one of those tracks that was written in 2018.
Were you a big Screaming Trees fan back in the day?
I like the one album, and it's funny as Mark was also born in
Alice. What's it called? Go Tell Alice, or
the one that had
the weird fucking cartoony thing on the front.
I don't know. There's an album that
Uncle Anesthesia. Was that one of them?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that album's so fucking good, man.
Is that the one that has the song the hit on it?
No, I Nearly Lost You.
Yeah,
later. Yeah. No, but this one has Alice. Oh man. Hang on, go ahead.
Well, Mark Lanigan was born in Ellensburg also, and that band is from
No way.
Yeah, and that video for I Nearly Lost You was actually recorded at the Ellensburg rodeo grounds.
Wow, no shit.
Yeah, it's like I totally recognize even now, some of those places that haven't really changed in my lifetime.
Here was the one. I love this artwork too. The artwork's fucking killer, man.
Well, I think that was a little bit later.
This was 91, and it had the song "Bed of Roses."
Mm-hmm.
That was like the big track on it, but there were other great tracks like Uncle Anesthesia was killer, and Alice Said. That was the track that always sticks in my mind. Right. I mean, there was a lot of bands that like Screaming Trees were big, but they weren't like massive. But there was other bands that. Like My Sister's Machine. There were a lot of bands that came through that grunge tad that a lot of people didn't really know about unless you really immersed yourself in that Seattle sort of scene that was happening up there. Yeah.
And I love that scene. I mean, even though I was a metalhead back then, and I lived in Seattle in between 94 and 96. So
right.
It was kind of rough being a metalhead being in Seattle at that time, but I loved the grunge stuff. I thought that a lot of it was much better than even the metal stuff that was happening.
Dude, man, fucking Soundgarden, most of Soundgarden's output and most of Alice in Chains output smokes most metal bands to death.
Yeah. And for me, it was, Tad and Mudhoney and I like the first Pearl Jam actually a lot.
I love that first album.
Yeah.
Can't really listen to them beyond the second album.
Trilogy had some moments, but
that's the one that had Better Man, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I liked the first half of that, and then there were a lot of bands like fucking Mother Love Bone. I love that band, man. Andrew Wood was fucking incendiary, man.
Well, it's funny too because around the same time there was another town that had a burgeoning scene that was similar to Seattle's over in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And there were bands like Twitch, Thought Industry.
Thought Industry, yeah.
A few others in that scene and they were kind of doing a sort of indie grungy thing too, but in Michigan. And
do you remember that band?
I was into that stuff too.
Do you remember that band Last Crack?
Oh yeah.
That
he was
album,
Michigan too.
they were Wisconsin, Burning Time, man.
Oh,
That album
Wisconsin,
fucking
yeah.
so cool, man. Anyway, so yeah, so I guess if the reality of it is, and you've been pretty public about this, in that there's unlikely to be an Agalot album. If when it just happens, it would happen, but there's no drive for it, and you guys are going to play select
Mm-hmm.
dates. You're not going to go out on big long fucking tours or anything like that. So that kind of leaves you open to maybe hunting for the right audience for this, particularly in Europe. I think this would do really well in Europe in particular.
Yeah.
They have an affinity for the West and that old West sort of thing. Plus, your reputation is probably ever so slightly larger over there, don't you think?
I played a show in Berlin, and this guy from Poland came up to me and he was just like, "What you do, your solo stuff, it's very interesting. I don't like it, but it's very interesting."
That's cool though. That's cool though. You know, I mean, like if someone came up to me and was at least saying, "Hey, I paid attention to it. It's not for me, but you do you," that kind of thing. That you don't want to hear everybody come up and say that to you, obviously, but every now and again, it kind of like keeps you grounded a little bit, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, and here's the thing. So now that I'm finished with this album, this third album, this trilogy, and all this stuff, I feel for the first time in years like I'm completely accomplished. Like I don't have anything hanging over me. I literally at this point I could retire from music if I wanted to, and feel accomplished and feel like I have a good body of work and I'm happy with it. And that's a wonderful place to be.
Awesome.
Because truly, I mean, the slate is truly wiped clean. And that means, what I'll probably do. I mean, I'm going to play shows and stuff, but as far as like recording stuff, the world, it's totally open. I might do a collaboration. I have lots of ideas, but no plans. And that's crucial, because once I have plans, I have to finish them.
Who knows? There might even be a Gas Mask and Haughm collaboration somewhere down the road. Who knows?
Aren't we doing that right now?
Well, we kind of are doing that. You're right. Yeah. Hang on. I got a riff I want you to hear. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you're free to kind of do what you want to do, but you're a creative person, so I highly doubt.
Well, yeah, I'll stop playing.
You're gonna stop. Yeah.
But but for now, it's like I don't feel like the pressure on myself.
Yeah.
To finish something that I've started.
How long were you working on that album? Like the latest album, Devil's Coil. How long from putting the first demos together to finally mixing and mastering? 4 years?
No, more like 3. I'd say late 2021.
Okay.
Until early this year, technically. I mean, when Christopher Brown finally, when I was able to find a cellist, and it's Cacophonics Christopher Brown from Oceana Jupiter, who I honestly was my first choice, and I didn't think that he would actually do the project, and he was stoked. So that was a great thing, and he did an amazing job with that track. I mean, it wouldn't be that track without his work.
Oh yeah, it's incredible, man. It's so good.
You wanted to talk about the coordinates and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So what is all the significance of that? It's cool. What it did make me do, though, John, it made me learn how to do the degree symbol, because I was hunting around through on fucking 9 million different apps trying to figure out how to do it, because I couldn't figure out how to do a guy's name that has that funny Norwegian circle with a symbol on top of it. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Never figured that one out yet, but I did figure out the degree thing, so we're all good.
Well, you have Photoshop. You can look at all the glyphs.
No, I don't have Photoshop. I use Photo P. I guess it's the same thing. It's a knockoff.
Oh, all right. Well, anyway. So, okay. The significance of the first album, Coordinates, is it's that cemetery in Goldfield, Nevada.
Oh, okay.
And it was funny because in that title came from that, because that was the time, like when we left that cemetery, and we were heading, I had we drove back. So it's like I had a long time to think. And, on that trip, I also went to Virginia City, Nevada, and we filmed some of that cemetery there. And that's actually where I found this. These are actual grave nails that I found at that cemetery.
Wow, really? No kidding, for the old time boxers.
They basically had, come, the coffin would rotted and the earth moved them up to the surface, and there was just tons of them all over the ground. So I collected them, and that's where this symbol came from. But anyway, so that title came about because that cemetery was always on my mind, and it was literally the last thing I remember before I started working on this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was the thing that catapulted this whole idea, this whole project. So that's where that title came from. And then the coordinates is on the new album. Since the first album is a rumination of death and spirituality and the desert and all this stuff, I decided to make it even more personal. The coordinates are of the hospital that I was born in Ellensburg, Washington.
No way.
But I originally wanted to have the coordinates of the hospital that was there in the 1800s, which isn't there anymore. It's just a lot. So that was very interesting. So it opened an opportunity for me to make this an even personal thing, because it's like, the Nomad was born in 1875. I was born in 1975. So there's this 100-year gap.
Yep.
That kind of ties it together. And it also, it's like, the first album is about death and, that. And then the new album is about birth and rebirth. So it's like it's kind of a death, birth, and rebirth kind of concept all the way through.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
These albums, the circle of life, so to speak. I know it's a terrible analogy, but it's kind of true. What does John Haughm think about spirituality and religion and belief in God and belief in death? What are your? Do you want to speak to some of that a little bit, like some of your personal philosophies on some of that stuff? I'm curious.
I don't really have any sort of religious side of that. I used to kind of follow more of a pagan ideology and spiritual kind of path earlier in my life, but I think I'm just more of I'm just an atheist, agnostic type. Don't know what happens. Pretty sure that when you die, you don't know it, and you're just non-existent, and that kind of frightens the shit out of me, to be honest.
Sure.
Because I love edibles. And every time I do edibles, I get really in my head, and I ruminate about death, and I ruminate about my life. It gives me anxiety, actually, but in a weird sort of philosophical way. That I don't feel anxiety in my normal life, but when I'm doing edibles, it all comes to the surface.
So it's funny you mention that, because Monday, this past Monday, I was finally well enough to go out, and I went down to see Vicious Rumors. Jeff Thorpe still is running around with it. Dude, I gotta tell you, they were fucking good, man. They were really good.
I got a story, but go on.
Okay, so hang on real quick. On the way, Maryland is a recreational now. PA is still medical. And I had the medical license way back when, and I was like, fuck this. I'm just not, I'm not doing it. So I decided to hit the store. And I'm not a regular user, but I really wanted to try edibles. And I got these blueberry, indica strain edibles. And you know what, dude? They don't do anything to me. I don't know if it's because of my illness and how my brain's changed, but
Are you on a lot of medication?
No, one thing. Blood pressure medicine. I have to take because my blood pressure is crazy fucked up. And I unfortunately have to take Lyrica for the neuropathy in my hands and my feet. It's the only thing that kind of helps make it go away. But I don't feel high from that. But man, I bought really high intensity, high THC indica, and I'm smoking it. I'm like, why am I not fucking blamzo stoned? Although last night I did fall asleep mid conversation with a good friend of mine out in California. He's like, I woke up and I heard him going, Jeff, you fucker, you fell asleep on me, and then he hung up. So, but that's interesting. So, do you do them that often, or?
Yeah, maybe once a week. You know, the more you do it, the more you kind of need to do more. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Do you smoke at all?
no,
Or vape?
God
No. So only the edibles with weed?
It's funny too, because it's like I respect smoking and I like the idea of smoking, but I don't smoke myself. I guess I'm one of those kind of people that in the 80s the ads worked on me because I just think that smoking's cool as fuck.
Oh, dude, I quit smoking cigarettes back in '95 when I had kids. Fucking hate them, but I do smoke flower from time to time because I tend to get higher from it for some odd reason.
Every so often I'll smoke I have a pipe. I'll smoke that because I like pipe tobacco, and I love being in, like, especially when you could smoke in bars. Like, I would go to the Horse Brass and there'd be some old sailor looking guys smoking a pipe, and I just, in an English pub, and I was just like, that's just.
Oh, it does have that debonair sort of thing. Yeah. Now, what were you going to say about Vicious Rumors? Because Raven was the headliner.
Okay, so, growing up in Butte, Montana, there weren't bands that played there.
Right.
I mean, in my whole life that I was there, so the bands that went through were Overkill, and they didn't play, but they did a record signing. The Pandoras, who I didn't see. Nitro came through. I actually met Nitro. I did not care, but it was like
Jim Gillette and Michael.
Yeah. There's a photo of me with Jim. There's a photo of me with Jim Gillette when I was like 15 or 16 years old.
Like a free drink, come in.
Yeah,
whatever.
Terrible band. But it's like, well, there's a band in town, so it's like, because there was this really amazing record store in Butte called Instant Music, and they knew that there weren't any places to really play in Portland or in Butte, but bands going from, if they were going to stop on their way from, like, say, Seattle to wherever.
Yeah, it was just it'd be
it's like you can do a signing and maybe sell some records and that kind of thing. And so that's how I met Overkill. That's how I met Nitro, Pandoras, and one of the bands that actually performed was Vicious Rumors, and that was the first metal band, the first real metal band I ever saw.
Oh, really?
They played on a parking lot. This was like 1990. So it was like, I think it was Welcome to the Ball was the album that they were.
Wow. So Carl Albert was still alive?
Yeah. Carl, I've got photos of that show.
Oh, man, that guy was such a singer.
But I remember, and I didn't like their stuff, but it was a metal band. It was my first opportunity to really see a band in action. Because up until that point, the only reference point I had was The Ultimate Revenge 2, where it's like,
Forbidden
and that kind of stuff. And so it was cool to see them. And I remember distinctly, there was one of the guitarists, the blonde, curly-haired guy. He was playing, and he turned around and he adjusted something on his rack effects. And I remember zoning in on that, going, "Oh, what's he doing? That's so cool."
Yeah,
and it's like, I have a soft spot for Vicious Rumors. I'm not a fan, but I do have a soft spot for them because of that memory.
I love Digital Dictator and the
they just sound like Metal Church to me.
Yeah, they do, and they kind of, they came out a year or two after Metal Church, so I like them. And Jeff was really nice, but it was kind of funny because he had told me he was putting me on the guest list, and the day of the show, I reminded him, didn't hear anything, went down, went and bought my weed. It was just so weird to walk in there and buy weed and walk out and be like, oh, okay, no big deal, whatever. But anyway, went over to the venue, and I went up to the door. I'm like, hey, I'm supposed to be on the guest list. And they're like, well, we don't have one for them. I'm like, oh, well, here. I showed him the text from Jeff, and he's like, yeah, just go in. And there was Jeff standing there, right? And I'm like, hey, man, I'm Craig Beer Horse buddy. Jeff, you called me the other day. We're going to do an interview. Oh, yeah. Hey, what's up? He's like, I said, hey, did you get my text earlier about the guest list? And he's like, oh, yeah, we don't do guest lists. We do door deals. What? In other words, he was going to give me like a discount on the ticket.
Oh.
I didn't mention that they just let me walk in for free. I just let that go. So I did buy a shirt. And Raven, man, can only take them for about 6 songs. Just two Monty Python.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing them on the Ultimate Revenge too, and they stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I mean, nice guys. I heard they're really cool guys, the Gallagher brothers, but just not my thing at all, man.
They remind me of Anvil if Anvil was a decent band.
Yes, that's exactly.
And Anvil is not a decent band.
No, I know.
You can quote me on that.
Yeah,
they're terrible.
And by the way, I did right here. I did at John's urging. I put there are some phrases of poetry in the booklet for The Devil's Coil. It says joining the silence of the unwell. Yeah, there's cool stuff in there. I really, really suggest everybody go out and check these out. You can go to Bandcamp, listen to them, stream them, and then look. You know, I think how much was the bundle? 35 for
35.
Yeah, for a T-shirt and a really nicely done CD package, man. That's a steal. That is a steal.
That's 1890s prices.
It is, and I'll tell you why it's a steal. I went to Queensryche and Armored Saint 3 nights ago, and the fucking T-shirts are $40, and they didn't even have my sizes.
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, I feel bad charging $25 for a shirt, but
you have to, because if the venue's taking 35%, you have to jack them up.
Well, Agalock has managed to get those waived because we're dicks about it.
Really?
Like, oh, we won't play your stupid venue if you're gonna take our merch money, you know. And we've had our US booker is of like he's really good at getting those, yeah. Because what the fuck? And what, you know, it's like these venues have bars. So should bands get a portion of the bar?
Of the bar, exactly. And they're charging $10 a fucking can of beer now, dude.
Right. So if you're gonna take a cut of our merch, then we're gonna take a cut of your bar.
Yeah. You know? And that's a big amount of money. So it's all Live Nation, man. Live Nation.
Yeah, fucking
Live Nation is the worst. That guy is a piece of fucking garbage. All right, so you're playing MDF with Agalock. Very cool. We kind of knew about it. You let me in on that way before it was actually public, and I had to be quiet because I actually had Andrew on and I had to talk to him. And I'm like, before we went live, I'm like, hey, man, I kind of understand this is going. I didn't bring you up. And he's like, yeah, it's not looking too good. There's something going on in the band there.
I hope things are okay with them. You know, I feel bad to be the band that's replacing them if there's something bad going on. You know, I thought it was like a visa issue or something. You know,
but no, it isn't. It's something more than that. It's something between members. I will tell you that when I went on the Facebook group for MDF, man, I'd say probably 80% were like, "Oh, well, we're getting a better band." I don't think it's better or worse or
we're too different.
Very different bands, and you know, I win either way. If I get, I told you I love to see you guys, and for a while I didn't think I was going to get to, and this turned out really to be to my advantage. So, a couple things to note real quick before we wrap up. John, I have a special guest dropping in a minute. I didn't tell you about it. I forgot. I apologize.
Is it Alex Lifeson?
It is. It's Lurks. He wants to come in and say, "Hey, John, what's up?" It is not Lurks.
So what is your favorite song from Power Windows?
Yeah, Alex, what's your favorite song, man? Is it Big Money because you tuned up the F to get those chiming harmonics? That's true. That's a true story.
No, seriously.
What's your favorite? What's that? Oh, what's my favorite?
What's your fucking favorite song?
Oh, from which album? I'm sorry.
Power Windows.
Oh my God.
I'll wait.
There's two, but I have to go with Marathon, man. I have to go with Marathon. Okay. It's just such a killer fucking track. But
what's the other?
1B would be Middletown Dreams.
Yeah.
I love that chorus, man. It's so take me to Middletown, bound. Just the way Alex plays on that album in particular.
Well, see, in that 3-song run at the end of the album, where you have Middletown Dreams, You've got Emotion Detector, which is my favorite song.
I love that song. Right to the
and then it caps off with Mystic Rhythms, and it's just like
another killer song.
fucking
Man.
killer. And
I love Grand Design, man. I love all that
that's a great song too.
Craziness. What's the Manhattan Project is great.
I mean, I'm happy that I got to see all of those songs except for Emotion Detector live, because they never played it live, which sucks. They never played the songs that were always my favorites. Like, they never played Available Light. They didn't play Emotion Detector. Like, they never played it, period.
I could have swore I've seen Emotion
No.
Detector, maybe not.
I have a book where Getty talks about how that song just didn't work out in a live.
Everybody, I am adding Mr. Andrew's Celestial Effigy. Now, the story, I forgot to tell you this. Back on Record Store Day, I went up for the first time ever and stood in line. I don't know why. I was sick. It was really fucking dumb, but I went anyways. And I had a good, strong feeling. I was after Voivod the Wake, Enslaved, Viking Liger Veldy, Fields of Nephilim, the demos, the first material they put out. Forget what it's called. The EP.
Burning
and
the Fields?
Then,
Is it Burning the Fields?
Yeah. Forbidden's Omega Wave, because they were only doing 400 of Omega Wave. That's the one I wanted to make sure I got. I get to my store, by the time I get up there, the only thing they have is Voivod. I'm talking to this gentleman, Andrew. I'm bringing on in a minute. All morning long. He's actually in a line in Kentucky looking. He snags me a copy of Omega Wave. And I'm like, dude, I cannot thank you enough. Somebody else got me the Fields and the Viking Liger down in Philly. So I got those. I got all four. But that album shows up, and I'll show you. This is the jacket. Doesn't look too bad, right? Until I do that.
What?
And then I do this.
Oof.
And it's been fucking run over. It's just damaged. The vinyl is fine, but the jacket is, I mean, you can see it's
the jacket. Yeah, the packaging is half the fucking thing.
It is. So I had to find one, and I found one that night. But this gentleman, Mr. Andrew, Celestial Effigy, is the guy that got it for me. He happens to be a huge John Haughm fanboy, so I told him he can't fangirl out and be weird, which I don't think he will. So,
all right. Well,
Andrew.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
Hey, John.
How's it going?
What's going on, man? Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, man.
Is that a crematory shirt?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. That's the good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Got that from Necroharmonic last year. Took forever to get it from that guy, though.
So, Andrew, did you have a few questions for John? One of which you put in the chat. I want you to ask him this because I'm curious about it. But, the floor is yours to ask John a couple questions. Go for it.
Yeah, John, I was going to say, the way you did these CDs, which I've had the first two for a while, obviously, and like Jeff brought up earlier, he said that they're kind of done up like a vinyl. Are you, is that something you've thought about doing, is putting them out on vinyl, like all three, now that the trilogy's out?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you should mention that. So Eisenwald Records is going to put out all three albums on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's been submitted. It's gonna be a trilogy, the same kind of thing where it's like the packagings are very similar. It's not going to be like the CD packaging, of course, because that's so expensive.
Very expensive, yeah.
But it's going to be awesome anyway. They're going to have this very rustic kind of sleeve, and each one is going to have an A5 booklet with them, and
nice.
Yeah. So, and it's going to be on 19th century black vinyl.
The stuff they had back in the old wax cylinders, though, that black.
Yeah, but no. And so anyway, I don't know when they're planning on releasing them, but everything's been submitted, so it's really in their hands at this point. Mm-hmm. So
I'm surprised.
You should also mention real quick, Andrew, John, that the reissue expanded deluxe version of Ashes Against the Grain is coming, right?
No, the mantle is. Actually, I think pre-sales are going on this next month.
Oh, that's the one that's going up.
Yeah,
But is the next one then Ashes?
after Ash or after Mantle, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's further down the road.
probably at the end of the year, if maybe not early next year.
And those are coming out on Eisenwald?
Yep.
Yeah, they do super nice work too, man. Really good stuff. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Andrew. I'm sorry.
So I'm surprised that Jeff didn't bring this up. And this is actually something I found from that Great Void interview
Okay.
about 4 years ago. Is this?
Oh yeah.
You talk about. I mean, you touched on it about 4 years ago about the influence of this album on the first two records. How did it go into The Devil's Coil? I haven't gotten to listen to it yet.
Well, it's more about the movie itself than the actual soundtrack. I mean, the soundtrack is amazing, and it was certainly an influence on the first album, along with Richard Stanley's Hardware, which is another movie that actually had Carl McCoy from Fields and Nephilim as an actor in it.
No
Wow.
shit.
Really?
Yeah, but the soundtrack for Dead Man was something that really inspired me to try something that was just guitar based atmospheric sounds done with heavy guitars, not just like clean tone, ambient stuff, but like heavy sounds where you're dealing with feedback and stuff. So yeah, that was huge, and that's probably top 3 favorite movie for me as well. So
That is a great movie. Yeah.
The Great Silence is another great Western that I like.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck, I love that flick, man. What's the main actor in it? The Russian guy.
Oh, Klaus Kinski.
Klaus, yeah. He's not the main guy though. Is it Nero? Franco Nero?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think it's Franco Nero. Dude, that and the coolest thing about that, have you ever seen that, Andrew?
No.
Man, I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think it's the only cowboy spaghetti western that was done in fucking snow
That's why I like it.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's like so different from all the other movies of that era.
Well, and you know what? If I was still living in Montana, I would have considered maybe making one of these albums be a snow album. But
The Nomad travels to the deep forest and gets caught in a snowstorm. So, all right, sorry, Andrew. So, what else you got?
Yeah, I was gonna deviate a little bit from the solo stuff. It's not about anything you've done recently, but I was gonna ask some questions about the woodcut demonstration from Art of the Black Blood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The black
there's
ambient. Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to ask you about your involvement with that project, what all you did with it. I know you did I think you've talked very little bit about it, maybe once or twice, but.
So that project, it's a collective. There's a lot of people involved in that project. And I was basically in charge of the art direction and a lot of the sort of aesthetic direction of that album. So I did all the design on that, but I also played guitar on it a little bit, and I did some vocals on it, and I also wrote most of the lyrics for it. Okay. And that was my contribution. And so yeah, it's one of those weird projects where it's like there's a bunch of people involved, and I'm really the only one who people know about because but yeah, and it's funny because one of the other main people in that project actually wants to do another album now that it's been 10 years, and we've been kind of going back and forth on now that I'm kind of done with all this stuff, I can maybe be more available to contribute to another new album. But yeah, that's a band that no one really knows about it, but every time it gets brought up and people hear it, they're like, this is incredible. But
wait, what was the band called?
It's Art of the Black Blood.
Oh shit, I didn't know about that. Yeah.
It's like a black ambient
plague worship.
Yeah. I had another quick question, John. I know you dabble in Nurse with Wound quite a bit, right?
Barely.
Oh, you don't?
I like Nurse with Wound, but I don't own any of his albums.
So you don't know funeral music for Perez Prado?
No.
Oh, dude. Trust me. You must pull that up sometime this week and check it out.
Yeah, Nurse
Because
with Wound.
I heard a little bit of that track in the third. Shit, I don't have these memorized. I'm sorry. In the probably a Find Him to Die. There's a vibe. There's some vibey.
Probably
That particular song. It's man, dude. That song is probably what I want played when I'm gone and people are walking by.
A Find Him to Die to?
Mm-hmm.
No, the Perez
Oh.
Prado one. Although the Find Him to Die would be cool too. A little poetic, a little too poetic maybe. But yeah, when people are walking by my casket, throwing shit at me and spitting on me, I was thinking I would play Nurse with. But you got to check that song out. So
yeah, Don and Jason are bigger Nurse with Wound fans than I am. I was always more stuck with Current 93 and Death and June Coil and Soul Victus and those that side of it. But I do like a lot of I know that he works with Current 93, the main guy, and also
so does Andrew Lyles. Works with
and did he work a little bit with Nature and Organization also?
Who?
Nature and Organization. That was a project that was mainly the guitarist of Current 93, but he had a bunch of collaborators on that.
He might have. I know Colin Potter, the dark ambient guy, is involved along with Lyles in the current incarnation of Nurse. But trying to keep up on everything that Nurse does is almost impossible because he dropped these edition of 25, and you got to be paying attention. You got to also be willing to spend a lot of money, and I kind of am over that. Did you ever
stuff like that's fun as an artist, but not so much as a fan.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you remember? I don't know if you ever got into this guy. His name's Andrew McKenzie. Fuck, Halfler Trio.
Yeah.
Did you ever dig into Halfler Trio, like the dark ambient?
Yeah.
Because I was really into that shit early 2000s. Steve Wilson kind of dragged me into that ambient, dark ambient, found sound, Basinski, Lustmord, all that stuff like that. That's where I was at way back when. As I said, I don't know how familiar you are or aren't, but there's touchstones to even Bass Communion in some of this stuff you're doing. I hear, because Steve actually used the guitar quite a bit.
Yeah, another group kind of in that circle. I don't know totally if they're in that circle, but they're kind of in that I've been into since probably the early 90s is a neoclassical duo called In the Nursery.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, they were very influential on me. They were one of those they had a couple of albums that were on Roadrunners.
Yeah.
And I remember getting them and just thinking this is incredible, but it's so different, for Roadrunner records.
Yeah, Roadrunner was just signing everybody back then at one point to try to have, what else you got, Andrew? You got another question or two, and then we'll wrap up here in about 7-8 minutes quick.
Why
don't you ask John about his guitars that he used?
I was fixing to pester him about that.
Okay.
Hey, so I noticed you've had a thing for the Travis Bean for the aluminum necks. How'd you first get turned on to those? How'd you come to realize you liked those aluminum necks? Because I've noticed most of the guitars I see you with anymore are those electrical guitar companies and acrylic body aluminum neck type guitars. Was that just an obsession that kind of snowballed after getting a first Travis Bean?
Yeah. So the first time I ever saw a Travis Bean was when I saw Godspeed You Black Emperor in 2000.
Okay.
And I was just fascinated by the instrument. I was like, wow, look at that headstock. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And the body is so beautiful. And it's beautiful wood. And it sounded so killer. I mean, that guitar was louder than any of the other guitarists. But I didn't know what it was. I thought it was some custom guitar made in Canada or something. And then a couple years later, I saw my buddy Stephen O'Malley playing one at a Sun show. And a friend of mine was like, oh, holy shit, he's playing a Travis Bean. And I was like, oh, that's what that is. So from there on, I started to research them, and I finally got one. I sold an old Ibanez Voyager that I had that actually was worth a lot of money. So I basically did a trade for that for my first Travis Bean. And then this was during the time when they were kind of affordable, because they weren't as trendy, I guess, the aluminum necks, and the reissues hadn't happened either. So and then I ended up finding two more for like a killer price. And so that started my little collection of them. And then I stopped at 3 because that's when they started getting really expensive. I'm not going to pay $9,000 for a guitar.
Absolutely not.
But then also something that maybe you don't know this, for this new album, I managed to acquire a local handmade aluminum neck brand, and he makes aluminum necks on old hollow body guitars.
Wow.
It's like basically it's like aluminum neck, and the headstock is kind of like a Travis Bean, but it's got this Victorian kind of look to it. And the body is this Telecaster. It's a hollow body Telecaster, and it's aged, so it looks old and worn, and it was the perfect guitar for this project. And I remember I went down to Centaur Guitars, and I was looking around, and I just look up and I see it, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And they brought it down. I played it. It's like uncomfortable to play, but it has such a strange, interesting tone.
Yeah.
So I bought it and they're like, "What? We didn't think anyone was going to buy this." There's like 20 of them, and it's some eccentric luthier in town that makes them, and it's called a Daco. And
the Dacos. Yeah, I've heard them. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like it's an aluminum neck, but it's rough. It's not polished aluminum. So it's almost like I'm playing a street sign or something. It's really interesting. I actually played that guitar in San Francisco.
Did you?
And so yeah, it's I used it on the Devil's Coil, and it's actually what you hear in the breakdown of Barbed Wire when it goes to the clean tone guitar with the piano. That's the Daco, and it just has this fucking iron sound. It sounds like I'm
great.
It sounds like I put like strings on a railroad track or something. It's got that kind of tone. So that's going to be, I guess, my main guitar for this project, because it just fits both aesthetically and tonally with the project. But yeah, I've borrowed EGCs. I've never owned one. I was, and I actually have a Travis Bean artist body that came with my Black Artist, and it's a Koa body. Because what it was a show guitar for NAMM in 1978. And so the guy I bought it from, he just sent me the extra body that came with it. And I contacted EGC to see if they would make me another like guitar, since they're doing the Travis Bean reissues. I was like, can I just send you this body and then you make the neck and the pickups and everything? And it was weird because their rep, we had a back and forth with the rep, and then it just went away. They just stopped talking to me. So whatever.
I mean, I guess stuff like that does tend to happen. Like A&R just kind of goes boom, gone.
Yeah, and I really wanted to have like kind of a Frankenbean that wasn't worth as much as the originals. Just one that has the tone, has the look, it's lightweight, but it's not one that, like, if it got stolen, I would feel bad about. I mean, I would, but I mean,
yeah.
Well,
actually, Tim's asking, what's the weight? I've never played one, so what's the weight like on those with the aluminum necks?
Have you ever played an original Les Paul?
Yeah, they're heavy.
That's about the weight.
Oh my god!
What are they, about 11, 12 pounds? I think,
12
right?
pounds.
Yeah. Because
so my standards, I have two standards, and they're about 12 pounds, and it literally hurts my back after a while. That's why with Agalock, I halfway through the show, I'll switch to a hollow body like Hagstrom or something, because one, for tonal reasons, but also it's light. It kind of gives me a break, especially when you're playing for 2 hours. It's just like, but the Travis Beans, they weigh on you for a while. But the artist is a thin body. It's a late model thin body artist, and they are more like 7 pounds. It's not too bad. A little more neck heavy though, but
like neck dive or
yeah, it just kind of hangs. But whatever.
Yeah.
And I used that guitar a lot for this project before. Like any photos you see of me from this project, and actually video from last year even, that was my guitar of choice for this project because it was so much lighter and it didn't like rip my outfit, because this coat is actually from 1860.
Wow.
And it's falling. It's literally rotting, and it's getting thinner and thinner, and it's there's ripping and stuff. And when I have a heavy guitar on, it's just gonna rip the coat more. So
Probably smells beautiful too, I'm guessing at this
no,
point.
it does not. It smells like must and age.
Are they super stable whenever you're going into different environments? Because I assume they don't have a truss rod, and I assume they're a little more stable since it's probably like a solid piece of aluminum, right?
Well, the aluminum, so the neck goes all the way through into the body, and, and the pickups actually sit on top of the slab that goes all the way through. So you could literally take the neck out, the whole neck assembly out, and like put the pickups back on and restring it one piece. So, I've never really had too many problems with tuning issues. The biggest issue I've had was if I'm playing an outdoor show, it gets really cold. Venue with a lot of I mean, once they warm up, they're beautiful guitars to play, but man, if you have to play a show outside, Agalloch played a show in Austria in the mountains once, and holy shit, we were the headliner, and it was so cold. I mean, I literally got kind of an ice cream headache in my fingers,
Wow. No shit.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But the nice thing about it is, when I play live with Agalloch, I'm pretty much in my place. I've got my effects in front of me. I have to sing. I can't really move around a lot. So my job is basically watching out for Don, because he's all over the place. And
he is, man.
And
he's
we've had a couple of almost collisions, and I keep telling him, like, dude, I'm going to win that battle every time. You're going to end up breaking your neck on my guitar.
Well, Don's almost like a punk rocker on stage. He has that punk rock energy when things when he gets really into it, which is really cool. So I'm stoked to catch you guys.
It's a nice little, watching the three of us, we each have our own kind of thing. I'm kind of the guy who just stays in one spot, and I'm just kind of surly and doing my thing. And Don's running around, jumping all over the place. And Jason, he's kind of in the middle of that. So.
All right. Andrew, did you need to fangirl gush at all, or do you think you got that out of your system?
I mean,
y'all good? No?
Yeah, I'm not going to make him super. I'm not going to.
That would be a good idea, but I'm making you uncomfortable by putting you in that spot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I just got to say, I remember you saying on the, I guess I am fixing to do that a little bit. Sorry about that.
Don't start crying.
Oh, no.
Don't start crying, man.
So I remember seeing it was either the Ulver deep dive or the Hovard interview, or John said that anything he would check out from or like a lot of things he would check out and buy and listen to, or stuff that Garm was talking about, and interviews and zines and stuff.
Yeah.
And about 4 years ago, when you did the Cast Iron Blood, which I think I got my copy around that time, I watched the Great Void interview that you did on Spotify, and it did the same thing for me that Garm was doing for you in the 90s. Like, it introduced me to Fields of the Nephilim. This album got me into Talk. So
good, big into Talk. Yep.
Actually, my favorite Talk.
Protege, John. I'm bringing him along. Between the two of us, we're nurturing him and we're steering him in the right direction.
Yeah, one of the first.
He doesn't talk about Rush like we do, though. I think he likes Rush, but he didn't even know about Triumph. I got him into Triumph. He was like, "Man, Rick Emmett, that dude's great." Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a Rush poster sitting over there, so I do love Rush. But I actually listened to Laughing Stock for the first time around that time too. Actually, my favorite, and then I kind of worked my way to the pop stuff, my favorite album is actually "It's My Life." But
Love that album.
That's a great record.
I love it. It's
Such a shame. What an amazing song.
The Last Time, Renee. Oh my!
Everything.
My
Yeah.
least favorite is actually the first album.
Which
Yeah.
one? Renee.
The first album is actually my least favorite.
I love it though. I still love that album, man. It's great.
It's good.
Great
It's very
hip hop,
good.
man.
Just-
Yeah.
If I have to, if one has to be at the bottom, it's going to be that one.
Well, yeah. I mean, I told you, John, I was jamming out to fucking A Flock of Seagulls, the first 3 albums, man.
I love that.
Love
Those
those
first
albums.
Oh man.
They're so fucking great, man. They're great songs. And that guitar sound from Reynolds, nobody sounded like that dude.
On the song I Ran, he's using a Kramer aluminum neck. You see
Is
it in the
he
video?
really?
It sounds like it. I think he used that guitar to record with because it's got that aluminum tone.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, Andrew. If you don't know Flock of Seagulls, you should. The
I
song
do.
like I Ran, that's I love that song, but that's like the pop
Yeah,
song. There's other way better songs on those albums. So,
Space Age Love Song is great.
which one?
Space Age Love Song, that's a great song.
Fuck, that's killer. Nightmares.
And that video is fucking hilarious.
It is, yeah.
The hair, it's like he achieved the perfect like hawk hair.
Oh man, dude, that you know what's funny about that? My brother was big into skating around that time. He fucking went with that hairdo. He's a little older than you. I think he's 50. He's 53. He went with the freaking, the hawk, the weird fucking Mike. What was his name? Mike.
What was his name? He was the blonde guy.
Yeah, the two brothers, Mike and
Yeah.
Ollie. Ollie was the drummer. Ross, not Ross. Anyways, yeah. Sorry. So go ahead, Andrew, because I interrupted you. So wrap up. We're gonna get John out of here.
Yeah. He's tired of listening to us, right?
He probably is sick of me. I don't blame him.
But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of had like that, I guess, impact on me, especially like I know a lot of people haven't really spoken about like the solo albums as much as you'd probably want them to, or Agalloch, or like not. You get what I mean, like not in lieu of Agalloch, because you're obviously very proud of everything you've done, except for that Northernmost Epic.
Well, that's shit that I did when I was in high school. That wasn't really. That was me trying to find myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Same with all. I mean, I was in a lot of bands in high school that made demos that Metal Archives does not know about, and nor will they. But it's just
that good, huh?
The Pessimist stuff and the uncomposing stuff that got out a lot more. And actually, Pessimist had a bit of a following for a while. I mean, Jeff from Time Ghoul was a huge fan.
Oh wow!
Shit.
Yeah, and I was friends with him, and it's just I
gotta get him on. I gotta reach out to him, see if I can get him on.
I don't know how you can get a hold of him. I've tried to find him.
There was a
guy is wandering the cosmos as we speak.
Well, there's
his drummer. The drummer of Time Ghoul is pretty present.
Is that the guy that did the YouTube channel? Had a YouTube channel?
The black guy, yeah.
Okay, maybe that's who I'd have to reach out to. Because I'm trying to get a hold of Devin Graves right now. You know Devin Graves, right, from Psychotic Waltz. He's over in Austria, so trying to connect with him. I connected with the band, but yeah. So in other words, Andrew's a big fan. I'm a big fan. We're both fans.
Yeah.
We dig your stuff, and this is really good, John. It's really having the trilogy and listening to all 3 end to end earlier today. I really feel this is the best piece of work of the 3, but not because you had a long time to write it. It kind of fleshes everything out completely of the cycle of albums. I love the second one a lot too, and I'm warming to the first one.
That's kind of how it has to go as an artist. I mean, if you're not making your best work, your latest work, then what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I saved the best stuff for this. It's just just the way it worked out.
Progression of time worked out, right? Sure, yeah. And again, you're going to be doing a video? Is it going to be a video to go up on like YouTube, or is it just going to be for your backdrops?
No, it's a video. It's like a music video, like Scars was.
Oh, okay, cool.
I originally wanted to do it before the album release and use it as promotion, but things happen and it didn't work out that way. So we're going to use it as post promotion, I guess, or we might use it to promote the vinyl when it comes out. I don't know. Yeah.
But, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, this album, not that you would expect it to, but this actually had quite the, because I was 17 when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm quite a lot younger than both of you. And
you are way younger than me.
Yeah. This has been like like this project, even though it's it's not Agalock, and Agalock was a very big influence on me early on playing guitar and stuff, along with like Death and Opeth and a lot of that kind of stuff.
Well, don't say the O word. Don't say the O word on here. Don't say the O word.
Yeah, I forget.
I'm not a fan. I don't hate them.
I'm going to tell you a funny story before we leave about Opeth. It's funny.
But I was just going to say that this album was pretty formative to me.
That's awesome.
Days. I'm trying to be like, or not trying to be like super gushy about it, but yeah, it was pretty formative. I don't know how often you've heard that or will
not
hear
about
it.
My solo stuff. No.
Yeah. But this was just as formative to me at the age that, because I was already a huge Agalock and Pelorian fan. Mm-hmm. This album was just as influential to my music taste going forward as Agalock and Pelorian were when I was getting into black metal and death metal. So yeah, I just figured maybe you'd like to hear that.
I believe I
really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
I know you've mentioned that you tried to play with Agalock, the Caverns in Tennessee. You've at least thought about it.
We want to.
Mm-hmm. If you ever get the chance to do it, please.
Well, that's the thing. I already told my booking agent, it's like if Agalock plays that, my solo stuff is playing it. I mean, that's kind of the rule right now. Unless there's a show that, say, Jason wants to do Moonbladder for, I'll step aside. But I'm taking advantage of it because that's really all I can do.
Yeah, and it's a no-brainer. It makes sense. It works with it, and it works with that, with the Agalock thing. And I mean, as long as it's not too taxing for you physically, I would definitely do it.
It's also nice because it limits me to do maybe a 30-minute set. So I have to think, okay, how can I craft a really interesting 20 to 30-minute set?
It keeps people engaged. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Andrew did. When I met Andrew way back last year sometime or earlier.
Around this time last year.
Around this time, he had seen the Agalock thing and he was like, man, like that Agalock thing was insane. Yes, we talked about Agalock for like 6 fucking crazy hours or something.
I haven't even talked about Agalock that long.
Yeah. That should tell you, right? That should
usually when we meet up, we talk business for about 30 minutes and then we hit the bottle.
Yeah, or you go to the record store and influence each other to buy all the other weird records. But anyway, the point of this all is, and it's not to embarrass Andrew at all, but he did say to me, he's like, after when I finally had you come on with Don, that fateful night when you were introduced to me and your life changed and you're like, wow.
What have I done?
What have I done? Jason probably says that to you every time you do something. He's like, that fucking guy, what's wrong with him, man? But anyway, Andrew said to me, he's like, man, like John Haughm is like, without question, one of the biggest influences because he plays guitar. He's getting pretty good. Taking lessons from Phil Tugas of Worm. And so Andrew was not bashful in saying that, you are his God. A little over the top there. That part is a little over the top, but we get it.
Yeah, okay.
Andrew, thank you for jumping in and throwing a question or two at John.
You just had to throw me under the bus, didn't you?
Of course, of course.
What you have
By
to
the
do.
way, I'll finally have my fingers crossed. I'll finally have my Forbidden album tomorrow. It should be in the mail. Let's hope it doesn't end up in the same shape as the one you sent.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
Is that new Forbidden stuff good?
Well, that's not new. That's 09.
Okay, that's new.
It's new.
Forbidden is 1988 to 1992.
It's new in that Steve Smythe's on it from Nevermore, Steve Smythe, and everybody else is original. Oh, Mark Hernandez instead of Bostaff. But Bostaff was out way back. Yeah, it's really good. It's way heavier. It's in like drop C or drop E sharp or something really heavy.
I'm curious to see them. It's just two of the original guys. It's not my Forbidden. My Forbidden was Evil and that stuff, but it's still. I mean, they're playing those songs.
Well, I'll tell you what, Norman. How do you replace a guy like Russ? He was kind of an iconic singer, right?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, man, I'm very impressed with what Norman's doing. He's not trying to cop Russ, but he does have some similarities that make it work.
He's got that scratchy wail to him.
Right.
Similar, yeah.
And I'll tell you, dude, they're playing everywhere and anywhere. It's crazy. They're literally fun. They just played this weekend. They had in San Francisco. They had the big fest with Biohazard and At War, and there was a whole bunch of other bands I didn't recognize, but Hatred, which I think is Zetro's kids. But yeah. So I don't know why did we get off on the Forbidden thing?
You talked about the album, and then I asked you a question.
Oh, the album, the record store day thing. Yeah, it's a good album. Is it Forbidden Evil or my favorite? Twisted? No, but it's really good, and Craig's fired up right now, man. He's writing stuff. Now that brings me to next Saturday.
Oh yeah.
So next Saturday, we are doing this, and I got the artwork today. Fucking killer artwork. I don't have it up on anything yet, but look at that. That is the Inner Harbor, a bloodbath in the Inner Harbor with chainsaws, crazy weird looking dudes up here. Oh wait, shit, lost it. Anyway, Rick knocked it out of the park on the artwork there. And why are you doing that to me, you bastard?
Your fanged angler is not working for you.
It's not working. And so next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to be going live with the pre-Maryland Death Fest. Keep on rotting at Maryland Death Fest in 2024. And we're going to be talking amongst 7 or 8 of us about what we're looking forward to seeing, who we're looking forward to seeing, all that kind of good stuff. And then I have a few musicians that are playing it dropping by. John said he would stop by briefly.
Well, are you going to get Craig?
Craig said he's coming on. Yep.
I'd like to say hello to him.
Yeah, I'll try to get you guys both on. Kelly Schaefer from Atheist supposedly is going to drop in. Phil Tugas from Worm and Cathelist is going to drop in. Did you say? I didn't say anything to Don. Don probably not down with that. He's not really big into that kind of thing.
Did you ask Jason?
I didn't. Why don't you ask Jason if he wants to drop in with you? I'll get the information, get you a link, and he can come on and say, "I'm only staying for 3 minutes." But that's the thing. You can drop in and stick around, or you can leave. Nobody is.
Yeah, I have to see what my schedule is for Saturday.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm not keeping you all night. So we'll just come on. You can kind of talk about the appearance. You can pimp your the new solo album again. Why?
Yeah, I mean, it has nothing to do with Maryland Death Fest. So
no, that's true, but we'll at least mention it.
I don't really like to. I don't like to overplug my stuff. I don't know if you've.
Yeah, I know you are like that. You're pretty laid back about it. So
yeah.
But we're doing that on the 11th. We're doing it on Jimmy's channel though. It's not on my channel. We're doing it on his channel, although I put most of it together. So over at Future Ruins, I wanted to give him something cool to do, and we wanted to do it over there. So that's happening tomorrow night. it's not written in stone, but I think I'm good. Tomorrow evening, I will have Luca Indrio from Necrot coming on. I'm also looking soon to have Browning,
Mike Browning?
Mike from Nocturnus,
Fuck
AD
yeah.
on Nocturnus. He's coming on. They have a new album coming
He's
out.
such a nice guy.
Is he? Yeah, he seems
Yeah.
cool as hell. Yeah. So doing that, and then there are some other things, and I'm not going to get into just yet, but there are some things kind of falling into place. One of which I hope, so I'm putting the pressure on John now, but a good friend of mine, Stunty over at Stunt Rock Confusion, is a massive Coil fanatic, and I really like Coil, and I know John is a pretty big Coil fan, so we're going to,
It's 1990.
yeah, we're going to try to work something out that we get myself, Stunty, and John on to do a primer for Coil, where we probably talk about all the highlights.
It's just, I'm starting to feel like the Scott Ian of YouTube, where I have a
Why?
comment to say about every, like, it's like every time there's a podcast, it's like that guy shows up.
You've only really done it on mine. I know you
I
did
know.
one other one, but it's mostly
I did
been
another
on-
one. I did
Did you?
one. Yeah.
That's cool. No, but I mean, like, I like having you in as not just the artist, as another voice of that really gets into really interesting music. You know what I mean? Like if you were just into Opeth, which we know you love Opeth, but if you were just into Opeth,
Shit.
I do have a quick story about that. Quick about the tour. Anyway, but if you just liked one type of music and that was it, like say you only got into black metal, I probably wouldn't be like saying, "Hey, John, you want to drop in?" It's because of these eclectic, weird things that we're doing.
I mean, it's a shame you probably don't have contact with Stephen O'Malley. That guy's got some wild music taste.
I bet, yeah. And Jason has crazy.
Jason too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have him stop in one night too. So you'll have to talk to him and soften him up. Already, Hunter's coming on.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, Hunter and Wagner are coming on in June, I believe.
Oh, you'll be seeing both. Well, you'll be seeing Jeff and Hunter.
Oh, is Jeff going to be at Death Fest?
He's going to be, and actually, my
Cool.
oldest friend, my oldest and dearest friend, Aaron Scholes, who was in my high school band Pessimist, he's coming down for it too.
No way. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
he's been a supporter of my work ever since I started this. Ever since I started Agalock,
That's cool.
So he actually was the guy who walked from one end of the mantle to the other in the snow. That snow sample. That's
Oh,
my
the
friend.
dude that was walking around. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
him.
that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
him.
yeah.
So yeah, he's coming to Death Fest, which was a really great surprise. So
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be seeing a lot of your friends. But let me what I'm planning to do with the rock stars that are dropping in, if you will, is I'm gonna try to not have too many on at once, because then they're all kind of competing for the attention of us and people watching. So what I'll probably do is like maybe I'll do it in twos. Maybe I'll try to have you and Craig on. I'll probably send a schedule out to you, like, hey, try to pop on between what times are you available? Like, I'll probably hit all you guys and say, what time are you available to come on? And then I'll just slot people in. Because, certain people like Kelly and I, we're both real talkers. So we'll overwhelm everybody talking to
I like Kelly too.
Kelly's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Kelly is a beautiful human being, man. So we're going to try to get him on too. So we'll see how it goes. We'll just sort of see how it rolls. That is Saturday the 11th. Tomorrow, like I said, I'm hoping to have Luca Indrio from Necrot on in the evening. T-shirts. T-shirts are being printed this week through Binder Room, through Marty up at Metal Maniacs. Marty, you know him, John. He does Binder Room and Austin and Panopticon. So he is printing the gas mask and hand grenade shirts off. Then I will hit up the people that hit me up to buy one with total cost, and I'll get them on the road. I hope to get them on the road before Death Fest, but it might be after Death Fest. I got a lot of promo ones to give out to people at Death Fest, so I want them. I think they'll be ready before then. Marty said so. And then, like Andrew, I know you ordered one, so I'll get with you on what's going on there. Yours is going to be a little more expensive than everybody else because I want my money back for my album that was damaged. But
Hey man, I tried to give you some
you
money.
you did try to give it back to me. So all right. Anyway, thanks, John. Any last words? Any final stuff you want to throw out there?
Any last words
Any last words
before you're
before your autopsy, sir?
No, just thanks for the continued support. I'm really happy to do something like this just for this project because usually these interviews are steeped with we'll talk about your solo stuff and then we'll talk about Agalok for most of it, and it's so
I did pretty good. We stayed clear of it. In fact, if you weren't going to play Death Fest, I wouldn't have brought it up at all.
No.
But that I did want to get that out there that's going on. Did you guys have any other dates that you're ready to announce or no yet?
No. May 21st, there's going to be an announcement for Agalok and my solo stuff, because it shows that Agalok are playing and I'm opening solo.
Oh, okay, cool, awesome. Man. But you can't get into it until May 21st.
Nope.
All right. Well, there you go. Andy.
It doesn't concern you because it's nowhere in America.
Oh, it's overseas. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then, I'm definitely not going to catch that. But hey, I'm super stoked to be finally catching you guys in a little over 2 weeks. Hard to believe it's finally here almost.
Yeah, I should probably start practicing the material again.
Do you actually have
Or
to?
I could not and just suck. It would be,
Well, I was just gonna ask. Like, the last show you played was Christmas? Around Christmas?
No, that was February in San Francisco.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Do
And
you?
we're not going to be able to really rehearse for this show because Jason's already going to be there. Hunter's flying up straight from Savannah. So we're just going to, we're not playing anything different that we've been playing. So
Is Jason going in early? Is he coming in?
yeah,
early
he's going to be
for it?
there Thursday.
Oh, he wants to watch the whole.
Yeah.
Go to the whole thing. Okay.
He had already planned to be at Death Fest when we got this offer.
Yeah, you gotta get him to come on Saturday night.
Well, I can tell him.
Get him
He just texted me, so.
Well, tell him to pop in next Saturday. It'd be cool to have you both on.
He sent me a message via Pony Express.
What do you mean? Literally?
No.
Oh, okay.
Through my Fandangler.
Through the Fandangler. Okay. Yeah. So look, anybody who was watching this, go out and check these solo albums out. They're on Bandcamp. They're not expensive. I think the CD copies are what, 12?
12.
Yeah,
that's me just breaking even because that packaging is so expensive.
I bet. Yeah.
I do it for the passion of art, not to make money. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we get that. We appreciate that. You do this right. You just do it right. And I know it's a passion thing because it's never going to be something that you're going to get rich on. But it's good stuff, John. I really vibe with it.
If it leads to me doing soundtrack work for movies, then okay,
that would be amazing. Sure. Yeah, that right there. That's where the money is. Right there.
I could upgrade to the S class then.
Yes, you could. You could be buying one of those $500,000 Les Pauls or something like that. I was watching Beato today, and I forget that guy's the Instagram guitarist he had on there. Guy's fucking just disgustingly good, but super humble, and he was playing a 58 Les Paul. 450,000.
Shit.
I'm like,
well,
what?
I have the same philosophy about my guitars. My guitars are worth a lot of money too, but I'm a player, not a collector.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how much my guitars are worth. I'm still gonna fucking drop them on my pedal board and walk off the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those are the things that are going on here with John. Friday, The Devil's Coil came out. Go check it out on Bandcamp. Support this guy. $35 for a really cool. Show the T-shirt one more time, John. With this bundle, this is a cool fucking shirt. I dig this shirt a lot.
Yeah. So the front, you see that?
A little up higher.
Uh-huh.
There we go. Mm-hmm.
And then the back.
Yeah, very cool. And there's some of the writing that's on the inside of the booklet.
It's the written poetry that's inside.
Poetry. Okay.
Yeah.
Was that your poetry, or did you see that? Okay.
No, that's mine. It was very influenced by Cormac McCarthy.
That's what I wanted to ask you about.
Oh.
That name comes up. Who is that guy? I don't know who it is.
He's a writer. He recently passed away, but he was a great. He wrote like The Road and Blood Meridian and No Country for Old Men.
Okay, so he was the guy behind that. Okay.
Yeah, and his writing has been very influential on my lyrics for Agalot. Because so Shane Breyer, who played on Pale Folklore, he is the one who got me into Cormac McCarthy. When I visited him in New York City back in 2004, after that tour we did, I stayed with him for a few days, and he was like, "Have you heard of Cormac McCarthy?" And he showed me Blood Meridian, and he just read any passage, and I opened it up and just read. And I was just blown away at the visceral quality of the way that he writes. And it kind of left a mark on my lyrics. I mean, you can tell that I was reading McCarthy when you read the lyrics for Marrow of the Spirit, or even parts of Ashes, because I mean, he just had these like powerful statements in his, that he would make. Like, the God of man as a failure is something that was very influenced by
writing. I like that line. Yeah.
Those kind of powerful statements is what he really excelled with in his storytelling and stuff. And
he's a fiction writer, essentially, right? Fiction writer?
Yeah. He could really just create an atmosphere with his words, and I love it. I love it when they can do that.
Yeah, I've never heard that name before. Of course, I've seen No Country for Old Men. I didn't know he wrote the actual the book.
He wrote The Road also.
Hmm?
Have you seen The Road?
No, I don't. Who's in that? Who's in that?
Is it Viggo Mortensen? I think he's the guy in that.
The dude that was in was Aragorn or whatever, and
I think he's in that. Yeah. But
I'll have to check that out. Are you a big reader, John? It sounds like you might be.
Yes and no. I'm not a bibliophile like Don is, but when I get my hands on something that is captivating, I'll read the fuck out of it. Like Geddy Lee's book. I mean, I plowed through that thing. But then there's other things where I'll start it and I'll just kind of get bored and won't finish the book.
Yeah, I'm super lazy, man. I fucking started reading this. I don't know. Fuck, man. 2 months ago. It's a good book. It's a great book. Jeff writes really well, but I'm like 70 pages in. I haven't touched it in a month.
Yeah, I'm actually all over the Voivod book that he's writing.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I know that's coming up. Yeah, and they've got a documentary coming out too. I gotta get with Dan and get away and Snake on. That was, man, Snake was the best. Hanging out with Snake a couple weeks ago, he is the best. That guy is so fucking cool, man.
Yeah. Well, when I was discovering music as a kid and stuff, and when I got into metal, I was always attracted to those bands that were on the fringe, and Voivod was perfect, for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. When I heard Nothing Phase, I came in because of the cover, which I didn't even know was a Pink Floyd song. I thought it was their song. That's how lame I was. Like, I knew Floyd, but I didn't know that deep cut, right? I didn't know it started with that.
I mean, Dimension Hatros was the first album I heard.
Yeah, well, that was the second one I heard. And the weird thing about that was, when I got the CD copy of Nothing Phase, I really felt like I was like the only guy in my town that could possibly know about this band.
Me too.
And I, you know that feeling. You know that feeling. And it's kind of a weird thing. You almost get this proprietary relationship with the band, like, I discovered them, look at me, that kind of thing. But yeah, Voivod still doing stuff that,
I mean, in my high school, there was this other metalhead who was into, the extreme stuff.
Yeah.
And we hated each other. And because it was the type of, I was like 2 grades younger than him, and he was like, and I remember wearing a Voivod shirt to school, and he just looked at my shirt and he's like, fucking poser. I'm like,
oh, really? Yeah.
And it was a Killing Technology shirt.
Yeah, there's nothing posers about that.
Idiot.
Nothing posers about that, for sure. Last thing we'll wrap up on here, John. About a week ago, I was talking to a friend of mine out in California. It was about 25 of noon, and he's in IT, and so we're texting back and forth. And he says, "Did you just get up?" I'm like, "Yeah, because my days and nights are very back-assward a lot because of my pain levels." I said, "Yeah," and he's like, "Well, you better get your computer open and get in the queue for Opeth." And I'm like, "What? Opeth? Yeah, they just announced the tour." I'm like, "Holy shit! Well, that must mean they've got new material coming out." Long story short, he was trying to figure out what the password was for the pre-sale, the earliest sale, which everyone does this shit now, right? And I ended up getting on the website and just punching names in, just trying stuff. Kept kicking me out. Finally, it let me in. I don't even know what I guessed, but I got in. A 7th row ticket at the Warner Theater for Opeth. Anyone want to guess what that cost me? I know John's thing is too
Hopefully
much.
$15.
I knew he was going to say something like that.
Because you shouldn't pay more than that.
No.
I've seen Opeth for free at festivals. So.
Well, yeah. I saw him for free back in the day, but $140.
That's just criminal, man.
Criminal.
Fucking Live Nation. Is that?
I paid it. I paid it like a fucking idiot, but because unlike you, John, I do like Opeth still,
Yeah.
and Andrew likes Opeth a little bit too.
I respect Opeth. Don't get me wrong. I respect them, but
you're just not into them.
No.
All right. I think we're pretty well wrapped up. What do you think? Anybody got any last minute things they want to throw out?
I gotta take off pretty soon.
I know you got to go. You got to go pick up your girl. Everybody, thank you that tuned in. Very much appreciate it. Andrew, thank you for hopping on.
Thank you for having me.
I made your dream come true. You can get off here and go, "Oh my God, I just took the John Haughm."
This was his idea.
It's not that big of a deal. Trust me.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. I talked to him a number of times. It's just not a big deal at all.
Yeah. This was his idea, not mine.
It was my idea. It was my idea.
I wasn't necessarily going to say no to just saying getting to ask a couple questions. So I do appreciate that, Jeff, and it was great to finally at least speak to one of my
heroes.
Really dig
musical heroes. We get it. Cool.
I've got heroes too. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be a little,
We get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
We get it. All right. So I think that's it. Go out and get the Devil's Coil. Go out and get the last place I remember. And the second one is Blood and
Cast Iron Blood.
Cast Iron Blood. And you really won't be sorry. And again, the prices are good. John does a crazy good. He designs all this stuff himself. The package is incredible.
It's kind of my job. So
it's kind of your job, right?
It's like kind of my career.
Yeah, that's what you do outside of this. Is you do a lot of layout and digital work and stuff like that. So. All right, I think we're going to wrap it there. Thanks to everybody that was here. John, thank you for popping in. I'll be talking to you shortly about the thing on the 11th. I'll get you a link, John, and say something to Jason about it. See if he'd be interested in popping on with you.
I'll text him back and mention it.
Yeah, just, again, you don't have to stay 3 hours. If you're on and somebody's on that you want to talk to too, it's a hangout. It's talking about Death Fest. It's talking about metal.
Well, if you want to talk to Jason for 8 hours, get Mike Patton on and have
you
him.
Told me he's a Mike Patton fanatic. Yeah, I like Mike Patton. I don't know that I could come up with 8 hours of talking to Mike.
I mean, granted, I've met him before a couple of times, but if you got Garm on, that would be great.
Well, I will tell you. It's funny you mentioned that. I'll tell you, we're going to end it here. I'll tell you afterward what I am thinking. So, everybody, thank you very much. Hang on, guys, just for a sec. Everybody, thanks a lot for doing this. Check us out next Saturday on Future Ruins, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the Maryland Death Fest, pre-fest, whatever, pre-game, whatever you want to call it. And watch my channel. There could be some very, very quick-hitting interviews coming up this week. I'm in with a new promotional group, and they're hitting me with a lot. So hang on, guys. See y'all. Peace out.